Yes, there is a timer. Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. We are locked in. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of the Kingsnake Chronicles / Corn Stars / Herpetoculture podcast. I don't even know what this is anymore, but this is our second Kingsnake episode. We are extremely excited. I'm your host, Chris Painshab, with the co-host with the most, my altitude-inhibited, Alterna-loving, Harry Crab Rangoon. Harry, how we doing today?
Oh my God. Better every moment. I have to return some T-shirts now for the last one. So, all right.
We're gonna keep that up. As always, our podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, BlackBox Cages, one of the most wonderful cage builders out there. They also build exceptional racks. I am lucky enough to have some of their products and have completely enjoyed them. As an engineer, I say this every time: the quality, the detail, and the craftsmanship is next level. Also, their designs are better than most. I hope to put some videos together at some point showing people how awesome it is. But you can always use THN24 at checkout. I'm going to double check and make sure it's
THN24
because it is THN24, ladies and gentlemen. We did it good. This podcast is officially a
You heard
success.
it here first.
Let's lock it in.
Probably not.
But you will get a discount at checkout, and that will be a great thing for you to do. Also, we're brought to you by Silent Hill Reptiles. JT and Mindy are absolutely killing it this year. They have the morph market set up, and they have been producing some stellar clutches. It has been wonderful being friends with them and watching them what they're producing. Last year they didn't intentionally breed anything, and they produced a ton of snakes. This year they are knocking it out of the park. Take a look at their morph market and see what they have available. They produce some of the best corns out there. I kid you not, some of the Miami stuff that Justin is putting up, or excuse me, JT's putting up on
nuts.
Morph market
nuts.
is just nuts. Too.
Oh yeah.
He's mixing the zombie line stuff with other lines. He's going deeper into his Hannibal line stuff. And even on top of that, he's working on other projects. He produced a bunch of scaleless this year. It's killer. And Harry, I know you're not the biggest.
I do a lot of double takes over their stuff, though. A lot of double takes. It makes me appreciate it.
It is so hard to not spend money when I'm looking at his stuff. It's all great.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we're happy to have them supporting the show. Though this is not. I think Austin needs to jump out and come back, and we do have a guest.
Yep.
But yeah, so super excited to have them sponsoring the show. We're proud to use their names all the time. Also, check out Fulvius Apparel. Justin's making some amazing new designs. He's come up with some really cool new stuff. I actually have my Flippin' Tin hat on.
Yeah, I'm rocking one of the old sweaty Alterna hats.
I should have worn my Alterna hat tonight.
No.
I didn't even think about it.
Because then one of us would have had to change.
Can't wear the same dress to the ball. But yeah, Justin's knocked it out of the park with Fulvius. Oh, yeah. Keep an eye on some of the new stuff he's got. I've seen some of the new stuff he's doing, and it is definitely badass. I just picked up that new Boom Slang shirt that he did. Yeah. Dude, it's rad. So rad.
Check him out at Daytona. If you go to Daytona, he's going to have a ass load of stuff. His words.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is that all our sponsors, Chris?
That's all of our sponsors, Harry, unless you have
We are missing, okay, for this episode, one-time sponsor, Carter's. Whether you're a new parent looking for normal-sized baby clothes or Chris Painshop looking for his size of shorts, Carter's, they'll hook you up. Go to the website, enter code THN24 for absolutely nothing. All right.
Speaking of babies, Harry, proven breeder. Love that. Congratulations.
Oh, man, yeah, properly cooled, baby.
We did it.
Properly cooled.
Yeah, we're stoked for you. One of the reasons we haven't done a show
so tired.
In a while.
I'm so tired.
Yeah, the new ones are tough, man, aren't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll do a little quick update on the season. Harry, I think you're still going strong. You didn't pair anything up this year. You knew that you were having a baby.
No, I did not. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick while you do your update, okay?
Yeah, no problem.
I'm sorry.
You're good. I have hatched out all my Jani. I was lucky enough this season to get another kind of aberrant, stippled kind of looking baby. That one shipped off to Mr. Bratz. So that's kind of exciting. That's the second time in a couple years that I've produced one. So we're pretty stoked to know that that is something going on in my line, and hopefully this coming year when I pair my F1s in my collection, obviously F1s from Wild, and including my striped girl that I produced. Hopefully we get to see a few more of those, and we'll get to really know what's going on. We'll prove that out, and I think it's going to be something fun for a lot of people to enjoy. Harry sending us hilarious text messages. I actually, Austin, our guest who's going to be on tonight, I'm going to introduce him here in a minute. Just got a couple Jani from me, so I'm very happy to be spreading the love with those. Lots of corn snakes hatching. I had all my Silent Hill pair stuff come out. I actually hatched a couple caramel, shatter, mask, tesseras, which are badass. So I got hatched 1.1 of those, and I will probably be keeping them because that's what I do. Is I hold on to all my snakes until I have to absolutely get rid of all of them. And I've got my Yellowhead project, which looks like is actually just buff, which is great because I like knowing what's going on. I've got those pipping now. I've got Northern Pines pipped today, so that's exciting. My Thomas Davis line Jersey Giants are starting to cut out of their eggs, so that'll be fun to hatch. They're one of the most exciting snakes. They come out real calm and massive and real easy to deal with. And then I got a few going to be pipping soon. I got some Palos Verdes Kings. Some 3 Mile West Alterna, kind of from that Dark Night male that I have. Hopefully make some more real interesting pattern dark animals. Vertebralis are right around the corner. Conjuncta, as always, those are super exciting. So yeah, it's been a good season. I'm really excited to have cut way down on the number of animals I bred. You know, probably hatch around 100 snakes this year, maybe 30, 40 geckos, and I think that's kind of the number. I've got some viper geckos about to hatch. Few cave geckos, Goniosaurus hyanensis have come out. So yeah, it's been an exciting season. Produced some really neat melanistic eclipse leopard geckos with Lily. So yeah, super fun. But Harry is going to be stepped aside for a minute, but I am super excited to introduce our guest tonight. His name is Austin Bohannon. He is with Double Diamond Reptiles.
That's what I came up with.
That's the name.
Yeah, that's it.
He's a close friend of mine. He's good buddies with Harry. And super excited to chat with him tonight. Austin, how are we doing tonight?
Oh, not bad. Not bad.
You got yourself a refreshment. This is our second time doing this. Huge shout out to Justin for absolutely screwing us the last time we tried to record a podcast. It's all, nothing but love.
Yes, we're refreshed today.
Austin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and especially how you kind of got to where you're at?
Cool. So growing up, my mom hated snakes, so never had them around until I kind of got to college. Took a herpetology class. I was like, oh, this is pretty sweet. Went to Ecuador, did a study abroad there. And that was kind of the start of it. Started coming to West Texas to try to find herps and really wanted to find rock rattlesnakes was the main goal. And I was like, oh.
Lepidus are pretty cool, man.
A favorite of mine.
They're a good second of West Texas. But no, it just came down to I found pretty much every species of snake in West Texas looking for gray bands. And they kicked me into the dirt and just kept stomping on my face. And it just kind of became an obsession. So here I am.
So,
bought a pair and go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, yeah. So you're talking about Alterna. You talk about West Texas. What was it about the Alterna? And this is kind of just like a prelim that made you want to find it. Was it the scarcity or, what was it?
It's starting off. I just wanted to find everything out here. And then everything else came pretty easy. And so I think how hard it was to find is really what drew me to it. And then after I really started getting to know what they look like in different localities and all the different things around them, it kind of hooked me. So
the culture.
Yeah, the cult of Alterna.
So, yeah, and it really is. Alterna guys are a different breed. We talk about that all the time. And you are an Alterna guy. So what would what does your collection look like right now?
Oh, I've got about 85 snakes total. Probably half of those are Alterna.
Austin has cut out.
Kingsnake.
He rejoins us.
Oh,
Austin, you're coming
You
in and out. You're gonna have to repeat yourself, sir.
Okay. What's the last thing you got?
Half Alterna.
About half Alterna.
Okay, so I've got about half Alterna. Everything else is either it's mostly Montane king snakes. I've got Mex. I've got Nuevo Leon king snakes. I've got a couple Gurai. I hold on to really nice desert kings when I find them out here. A couple desert kings, a couple hog noses, Mexican hog noses from here, and then I've got just a bunch of native stuff because with my job I go to a lot of schools and do a lot of presentations on native snakes we have in the area.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So predominantly your collection is West Texas stuff. You are located in Alpine, Texas, which is a beautiful, beautiful area. As far as your Alterna collection goes, you're all locality, right? Everything you have?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything that's not locality. I produced one non-locality clutch, but it was from locality animals. And that was last year. That wasn't this year. Yeah, everything I've got from here in West Texas. I don't have anything from anywhere else.
Yeah. So do you know, as far as your collection is concerned, how many different localities you represent? I know it's a bunch. I know you should have counted.
Probably 15, maybe 10 to 15.
Nice.
I could list them all off, but that would take a while.
That's all right. I'm sure we're gonna definitely be deep diving into a couple of those localities and kind of what makes them special. So we kind of do this with each species spotlight. I'm gonna talk a little bit. I know Harry's gonna talk a little bit, but we want to start with you. You got Alterna. We're gonna talk about breeding. We're gonna talk about the thing everybody loves, which is babies and all the different special things about localities. How do you keep your Alterna?
So mine, I keep them in racks. Fairly small tubs for juveniles and subadults and hatchlings. I think I've got an ARS rack for all of my adults. It's one of the 5040s. It does really well for the adults. Really just keep them in tubs. Good air holes on one end. It's pretty dry out here, so I don't do anything to try to keep them any drier than they already are. My snake room stays about 15% humidity.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
it's
dry.
pretty dry. Yeah. Yeah. Which has led to some different incubation strategies from what I've done in the past.
Awesome.
Do you have to supplement moist hides and stuff a little more than probably somebody where I am has to? Because I don't have to because of how my humidity works. I pretty much get away from having to do that. Is that something you have to do with it? Okay.
Pretty much everything I have is from here, but
yeah.
I don't get upset when a little bit of water spills.
Yeah.
So I don't immediately clean that up because it's usually dry within 12 hours at least. And that's really about it. I don't do anything. Right now, I've left a couple lay boxes in with some females after they've laid a month ago or however long it was, just to kind of see how they do.
Yeah.
And they're never in it. I found a female in one for the first time yesterday since she laid. So they don't really care here at least about being any more moist.
I've found that any human hides that I leave in with my Alterna, that's not where you're going to find them unless a female's laying eggs.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also, I have never had a bad shed on an Alterna ever. Oh my gosh, in 18 years of having Alterna, I have never once had a bad shed.
You're down there where it's 98% humidity.
It's also super humid. Yeah, my house.
Yeah, he's got that Florida humidity there, like me.
Inside of my house is 60% humidity, and we cannot lower that. So we're just used to it.
Even with the 15, 20 to 20, 25% here, I've never had a bad shed either.
Yeah.
They shed good every time, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, they're really, we'll probably talk about adults. I'll hit you with my keeping style, Austin. I kind of mimic what you do. I use tubs. I use tubs for babies. Um, I use tubs for adults. I do have multiple hides with most of my animals, or I try to maintain multiple hides with most of my animals. Nice size water bowl, clean water. One thing I want to ask you, and I I've been to your house. I've seen your reptile collection. You've been to mine. What kind of temps are you hitting on your Alterna?
So I keep my room at 75, and then I've got back heat on everything at 80.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really seem. I mean, looking at them right now, probably half are at the front and half are at the back.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it gives them something to move across.
That's my reptile room 75. My hotspot is 80, and I bet if I go and actually temp gun in the tub, I'd be hard pressed to find a spot that's actually 80.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I dug down, moved some of the substrate, I'd find it. But yeah, they just, God, it's like the one animal that if you just left them at 75, they're probably just fine, right?
Yeah, that's what I did before I had all these fancy racks.
Yeah.
I just kept ambient heat for the past years, and I would keep it about 77. So you get that couple degrees fluctuation either way, and they did great. I never had any problems with them.
Yeah, you don't see regurges. You don't see babies not eating because of the temp. A lot of you kind of get this idea from people where they skyrocket baby temps, and you get to keep your babies at 84 to 86. That way they're moving more, they want to eat more, and I just don't think that's the case with Alterna, not at all.
No,
I don't think you could make me do that.
Yeah.
No, me either.
If anything, I keep my babies a little cooler because sometimes if I'm quarantining anything, they are at ambient and they rock and roll, man. They
I feel like
they
higher
love it.
temps would put me under more pressure to get them feeding quicker.
Yeah, because they're
that
burn
metabolism
through it.
goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing with the adults, Alterna. We'll probably get a little bit more into the feeding here in a second. In fact, we can kind of jump into feeding, not babies yet. We'll kind of handle breeding and babies later because it's this wonderful little conversation all to itself. But with my adults, I am not a weekly feeder on my Alterna unless I have females getting ready to lay eggs or females going into breeding. I am a 10 to 14 day feeder on Alterna. Austin, you do anything like that?
Yeah, I don't keep a schedule. I don't keep a spreadsheet like you do. But
yeah.
No, I shoot for every Sunday to be feeding something.
Yeah.
I try to feed my adult females the most, obviously, but adult males, I mean, they do good once every 2 to 3 weeks, and they're maintaining body weight. If they're not a juvenile, but if they're an adult that's just maintaining weight, probably every 2 to 3 weeks on those.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a snake that goes into brumation for 4 months that you don't feed for a month before brumation, and then half the time the males come out and don't eat for 2 months. You're talking 7 months out of the year. That leaves us 5 months to feed them, and they don't need to eat that much.
And they're still exponentially more fat or more girthy than they are when you catch them in the wild. You catch them in the wild and then bring them in, you're like, God, this thing's anorexic.
They look desiccated and thin skin, but no, that's how these animals are. Yeah. It's kind of an amazing thing. One thing I always kind of harp on with Alterna, I think that if somebody's looking for a first snake, something that's going to be calm, something that's not going to be nippy, if you find a subadult or a well-established juvenile Alterna, they're kind of bulletproof. It's a snake that does great in a 20-gallon aquarium with a light on one side that gets it to maybe 80, or an under tank heater that's set at 80, or you have a nice ambient area. You could do a lot of hides. You could really go crazy with the enclosure design, rock backgrounds. You could do amazing stuff with them. It's not how we keep. I don't necessarily think that's what the snake wants because these are very, very secretive snakes. But you could really do it.
So I've found that they don't like big areas to be in unless you got a ton of hides. I mean, there was one that I caught. I brought him home. He was pretty big. I put him in one of my adult-sized tubs. Could not get him to eat. I was like, he's too good. So I put him in a small one of my juvenile racks that's much smaller. He
Yeah.
didn't make it from one end to the other without having to make a turn. Man, in like 3 or 4 days, he was eating like he had been forever.
Yeah.
And it
Like
just,
he was a pet.
he wanted that small confined space. And they're not all like that. There's some that'll just cruise around in the daytime, but I find that they like the smaller spaces a lot better.
Oddly enough, I do find that between, just because I'm sitting here looking at several of both, between my Alterna and my Leonis, I find very, very obviously very similar across the board as far as like behavior and keeping and stuff. I find the Alterna seem to enjoy being out more. Seem to I don't want to use the term climbing, but I find them on top of things in their enclosures exponentially more often than any of the Leonis. And
They cruise a little more. I think that's I kinda
cruising.
see the
Yeah,
same
that's
thing.
a better word for it than anything. Just
Yeah.
Do you have
I have
adult Leonis,
Hmm?
Harry? Do you have any
Do I what?
adult Leonis?
no. I have a couple sub-adults, but no, they're still growing.
All
And that
my
may be
adults,
something. Like I have a bad sample size to be making those claims, also, but that's just from what I've seen.
all my adults Leonis are cruising.
Okay.
There's a couple of adult males that don't stop.
Hmm.
They're just
Males
cruising.
are bad about it. You
Yeah.
know when you pull open the tub and all the shavings are pushed to one side and the hides over here and the water bowl flipped over. It's like, bro, what were you doing? Right?
And they're breakdancing.
Yeah. They're and also I think male Leonis and female Leonis. I have a huge dichotomy in my collection as far as attitude and what they do and how they act and how they eat, and it's kind of interesting, but it's kind of not until they hit sexual maturity.
Okay.
And
That will be interesting to watch with these guys. See if what I've noticed changes as they get older.
Also,
But
when I'm feeding and I've got Leonis going, I got to watch my fingers. And when I'm feeding Alterna, they're just like, "Yeah, dog, you can set that down. We're good."
Yeah.
No,
got some
see, my
Leonis-
eat like Getula, so I don't know. Maybe it's something else, something in the air down
Getula.
here. They're nuts.
I'm sending you all my bad feeders.
Do it.
It's that temp.
But yeah, like you were saying about the pets, I think all of the Mexicana king snakes are great for pets.
Yeah.
Starting off for small kids.
Yeah.
It's usually one of the favorites whenever I do all these education events for kids. They're always grabbing the gray bands and they're always grabbing the subox. People love subox.
Subox are cool.
The kids love subox, yeah.
And you're lucky you're in a place where you can have subox and they don't just die.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But they don't. Luckily, they don't die till they're adults, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a super good old Suboc episode coming later.
Don't bring me back for that one because all I know how to do is kill them.
Oh man, Subocs. Okay, so you got Alterna. You maybe even found one. What kept you with them? Right? Like why? What ridiculous spot in your mind other than you said you wanted to find them. You looked for the snake. We'll talk about how easy it is to find them because we know that because you live there, they're literally in your driveway. And
Nothing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I flip a board in my front yard every day, and there's just another.
You got some yard 10. They just one under it every day.
Yeah, 10 works great out here.
Yeah,
it's like Harry and his what you call it, his gray rats. They're just in your yard, right?
Yeah.
Ask Jake and Smitty about finding gray rats here. They'll tell you that's not true.
So what about the Alterna? Made you stick with them? I mean, what was it? I'll kind of go on why it is for me, but what is it for you, Austin?
Well, I mean, they're the best there is, kind of like Ricky Bobby said. So
wake up in the morning, piss excellence, best
yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you go 10 miles, you drive 10 miles and they look different, and you catch 10 off the same rock and not two of them look the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we get that. You've got that in your corns, but you're breeding for it, and you kind of know what to expect sometimes. But just being out looking for them and really having no clue if you find one, what it's going to look like. You've got an idea. I mean, if you're in the Eastern Range, you've got an idea. But there's always some crazy stuff that pops out.
Exactly.
And think about
and
this: how many of those 10 that you found that all look different do you think are siblings or something like that, and still look that incredibly different?
Oh, they're probably same clutch.
Well,
same
see, that's
they were
that's a
going after the
whole
same
new
thing
level
to
of phenotypic
Going for the same
variability
mouse. Yeah.
what the cool thing about Alterna, even if you do have two from the same locality, and they could damn well look identical, and you breed them together, you have no idea what's coming out.
I bet one of the babies doesn't look like a parent. Either one of the parent.
And it's one of the most amazing things about them. Everybody kind of always thought that Alterna came from and this is what I was as a youngling, that Alterna was that there were alternate babies. All the babies look different from the parents, and the parents look different. It's actually not what it is. On their banding, in between their saddles, there are what are called alternates. They can have single, double, triple, and I think some of them are even more. That's why they call them Alterna. Originally, there was two different species. We had Lampropeltis alterna and I believe it was Lampropeltis alterna and Lampropeltis alterna blairii. And that was kind of the two phases. The more west you go, you have what we know as the Alterna phase. And the more you get more blairs. Not all of them are blairs. You will still have Alterna phase on the eastern range. In fact, the furthest eastern range is Austin. Correct me if I'm wrong, because we're going to start talking about ranges and stuff. At about 277, they get a little bit more east than that. Or sorry, what? Yeah, east than that.
Yeah, about 277 is the cutoff. There's been a couple found east of that. I can't figure out why they're not further east, because the habitat looks the same.
Yeah.
The same animals that are found with them everywhere else keep going further to the east. But yeah, there's a little road that goes up towards Rock Springs that I think one or two have been found on since the 70s. I'm probably wrong. I'm sure there's people out there who have caught them. I haven't told anybody.
Yeah. One of the most amazing things about Alterna is people do not tell you when they catch them or where they caught them.
The subterfuge involved is second to none.
Yeah, it's
I talked to
of
about
amazing.
2.5 people.
Harry's the half. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, the leprechaun.
The leprechaun. The amazing thing about the Alterna hobby, and we're going to kind of dip into that a little bit, is that it is a very prideful and joyful experience to be able to find one. We'll go into how we look for them and how we might want to look for them. But it is so damn hard to find them that when people do, that they don't want anybody to know the parameters, the spot, where that snake came from. Even to this day, there are well-known breeders that are breeding snakes that will not tell you the locality of those animals. They will just tell you that they're locality matched. I would highly suggest not buying those animals, because that sucks. I'm sure Austin would agree with that. I also think Austin has faded away from us. Austin is literally in the mountains, using a hamster on a wheel, running as hard as it can to power his electricity and Wi-Fi. So if he cuts in and out, his audio is going good still. So yeah. So as far as the range goes, there's a few things. I'm not going to deep dive into the history of the animals. All that information is out there. There is kind of a cutoff point. It kind of seems that Sanderson is the melting pot for phenotypes. If you go north in Sanderson, you get this very light-colored, beautiful, kind of sharply banded, high orange animal. If you go west, you start getting darker, dingier, more Alterna phase, and a little bit less Blair's phase. And sometimes when you go east, you'll get a little bit of those thicker Blair's saddles. Now, that's not 100% Austin, because you never know what you're going to get.
No, nothing's 100%.
No.
Yeah.
One thing that has been found. Okay, so we had talked about there were two different species. That was Lampropeltis, Alterna blairii. If I am screwing that up, I'm not a scientist. I'm sorry. But now,
do either of you know when they were lumped? I meant to look that up earlier, and I could not remember.
I don't. John's yelling at us right now.
I'll look it up later. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, John's kicking us through the screen. I don't know. Back in John's day.
but they were lumped together, so they are all one species. One thing that was found doing DNA samples is that any of the heavy Blair's phase animals have some amount of annulata DNA in their genetics. So we do know, and there have been found
Is
hybrids.
that proven?
That, according to
that
everybody I
proven?
have talked to, that was proven. They did DNA samples and tests. And supposedly there have been wild type hybrids found that have been bred together and produce milk snakes and produce gray banded king snakes. Austin, do you remember who
I
it
believe
was?
both of them. Oh, yeah, it was Troy.
Troy Hibbets? Yeah.
Yeah, he found one in the Davis Mountains that looked nuts. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's insane looking.
Yeah. And they, I think I was talking to him a while back. He said they sent off a shed and got the DNA, and it was 50-50 hybrid between Ceylon Ops. And yeah, we don't have Annulata out here. We just have Ceylon Ops.
Yeah, the Ceylon Ops range ends a little bit past Sanderson, and then the Annulata range starts a little bit east of 277, right? Something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, there's some real interesting things going on in their genetics. Now, one thing that we have to realize is their range. Austin, do you kind of have a good idea of? Justin Smith actually just messaged us. He's helping us with the recording, and he said they were lumped in 2014. So pretty not in John's day. That was Austin was 4 when they were lumped.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So their range, Austin, how far north can we go and find an Alterna?
New Mexico. They're protected in New Mexico, so don't go run up there and snag one. But yeah, just barely into New Mexico. There's been, I think, 4 records found now. Somebody threw one on iNaturalist last year.
And the thing that I kind of find amazing about the Alterna is how far south could you go if there were no issues with going out of the country. They go they go pretty damn far, right?
Yeah. So they go San Luis Potosi down there.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't, I mean, at least on iNaturalist, you're not seeing much in between here and there. They've got to be, I assume.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be the one to go fight the crowds.
Yeah, I'm not going to go down there and look for them. One of the very popular and very, very hard to come by and also very expensive localities that we do have in the hobby right now is the Saltillos. That is a Mexican locality of Alterna. Not entirely sure the whole story how they got here, but I know they've been here for quite a while. But they do go very far south, down almost into the San Luis Potosi Mountains, and I believe they're just north of the San Luis Potosi Kingsnake Mountain, which is kind of amazing. As far as I know, they do not integrate anywhere.
Supposedly.
And I have heard that there are records that they, as going east in Mexico, they do integrate or are capable of integrating with Leonis.
Yeah. I bet if they come in contact with any of those Mexican kings, they're breed.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
The interesting thing about these locality phenotypes and why we're so strict on those localities, even though we may be in Sanderson, but we want to know exactly what cut, is because each of these small little pocket islands of mountains, each one of these rocks, you kind of have an isolated community of these snakes, and they kind of do have a very specific phenotype. Markers to that phenotype, not necessarily they all look like this. It is more if we play a game all the time where we'll throw a snake up in the chat and we'll kind of be like, what's the locality? Austin's usually right.
It's a terrible game.
Lang trees look like Lang trees.
Yeah.
Except when they look like 277s or Junos or Sandersons and Mandels.
Your 9 Mile North look like 9 Mile North until they look like a 277, and your Boy Scout roads look like a Boy Scout road until they look like a North Olympia Canyon, and
So there's some general rules behind how they look in each place.
And a neat thing you'll find is it's not just color, it's not just pattern. It could be size. I've noticed that a lot of the eastern range the eastern range animals are larger. A lot of your western range animals are a lot smaller until you find one that's 4 foot long and it's a monster.
Attitude. There's some locales where they just bite. That's what they're going to do. And their babies don't eat. So,
yeah, I was going to say, I've always heard different localities can be real pains versus others when it comes to starting.
Yeah, there's, and on that, that's kind of one of the amazing things about them. It's probably because the prey items available to them in their specific little pocket, their little island. You've got your Huecos, which are one of my favorite localities, and that's going to be one of the westernmost localities for Alterna in Texas. I think they're stunning looking. To me, they look like nothing else until they do look like something else, which is just a whole, part of the thing. I've heard they're one of the hardest to get eating, and sometimes even as adults, they don't eat well. Anything from Olympia Canyon, Boy Scout Road is notoriously hard. Any of them stand up for you, Austin?
I've had some real bad limpias. I had an adult Waco not eat this year, and he didn't make it. Just came out of brumation, wanted to breed, wanted to do nothing else.
Yeah.
Wouldn't eat. I've had him for 4 years.
Yeah.
And this year he decided he didn't want to eat anymore. So
that's
Wacos, Olympias, and then those 9-milers I bred that wild caught to an F1. I can't get them to eat at all. Ship them to you guys, and they're like, "Oh, they've been eating since day one."
Yeah, those 9 miles are everyone you've sent me. I think most of the ones you sent Harry, 8 day 1 or 2 for us.
I had to do battle with one of them, but he's kicking ass. The other one, day 1. I think I sent him a video.
Yeah. I was very happy for you, but also kind of pissed.
That emotion ties well with all things Alterna, I think.
Yeah.
They're such a rewarding animal in so many ways, but they could be so damn frustrating and heartbreaking in so many ways. And we'll kind of dip into that as far as how we go about breeding them and stuff. I would like to talk a little bit about how we find them. One thing I'm not going to do, and one thing I'm going to suggest to the listeners, Brian Box did an episode with MBR, and he spent a lot of time talking about finding Alterna and the different localities and where to find them. And if you go even further back to the old, what was it called? From the Ground Up podcast with Joe Phelan, he did an episode with Stu Tennyson, and he spent a lot of time talking about, this is how I found them, this is how I recorded it. Everybody does have special experiences. And also, I'd really like to just know a little bit more about your experiences with finding them and how that's gone for you.
If you want to find them, listen to those guys, because I don't know how. I'm the world's worst Alterna hunter. Took me 5 years and 124 nights to find my first one. Then I found 3 in 2 nights and about had a heart attack. Other than that, the more I do it and the more I seem to find, the more I realize there's a ton of luck involved.
Yeah.
You can go out during the prime conditions. I'm not going to list them because I'll be blacklisted with all my buddies. But you can go out prime conditions, which is pretty much all I do now that I live here, and don't find jack.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a typical experience. And then I go out 4 weeks past. Everything's wrong. I'm just out there trying to get some exercise and come across an Alterna.
Yeah.
So it's the more I get into it, the more I realize I don't know what I'm doing. I walk the side of the road and hope for the best.
I think there's a little bit of that ideology that people have. They've listened to the people that have found them. They've read online on the people that have found them. Dan Johnson spent a lot of time categorizing how he found snakes, where he found them. A couple other, there's handfuls of websites out there. People really spend a lot of time saying, this is how I found them. And then people come down here and during those, not say here, over there, because we are 10 hours away from each other. People come down during these perfect conditions, the perfect time of the month. It just rained. these, I'm gonna be here for 5 nights. It's a perfect Alterna night, and they don't even find a snake, right? So
Yep.
it's or they have a 30 snake night, and not a single one was Alterna, or you have one snake night and it was the Alterna.
Yeah, and I mean, they're hard to find. In the time it took me to find one, I got an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, and a wife. So, yeah, they're rough, and a lot of people, they see that stuff on Instagram and Facebook, and for whatever reason, those guys that come down in groups of 10 seem to go out for 3 nights and find one.
Yeah,
I wish I had their luck. I guess you got to be from Florida or somewhere else area.
Yeah.
If you'd ever come visit, maybe we could find one.
Well, that's
One of
how
these
it worked
days.
for me. I had been down in the area. I had not really ever looked for Alterna, and I went down, and me and John had marked some cuts we wanted to hunt when the sun went down, and spent a little bit of time on Boy Scout Road and saw a beautiful little blacktail. I said, "Hey, sun's down. Let's go to that first cut." We went to the first cut. I got out of the car. I turned my flashlight on, and it was literally pointing at an Alterna. It took me 10 seconds, and that's the night that I met Austin.
Yep.
And
I wanted to take a baseball bat to your kneecap.
Yeah, so everybody has a different experience. I have not found one. I've probably been out there 10 or 12 more nights. I've gone to my 3 Mile West cut where I have a wild caught male that was given to me, and I walked that cut for 16 miles over 2 nights under what we would call perfect conditions. I didn't even see a snake. I walked 9 Mile North. I've walked Olympia Canyon. I've walked West Alpine. Haven't done much hunting down in the south area at Big Bend. Done a lot of Black Gap, but and nothing again. So I'll take my 1W and go with it.
I've done. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it really does seem like no matter where you are with these really like low percentage species and stuff, that people seem to get that I did everything right, why didn't it work mentality, and it's you got to it's the repetition at some point. It's just you can get lucky once. Like my cousin turkey hunting found an AK, and I've spent the last 5 years of my life destroying my vehicle in the national forest, and I have not found one. So
yeah.
And what is an AK for all of us?
The night.
Apalachicola Kingsnake. Lamprey peltis means eye or going eye, depending on
what day of the week it
The
is.
night's
yeah, basically
60 through 120 or so. When I hadn't found one yet, when I first started coming out, I didn't know anybody or what to do or anything. I just went, and then started meeting people on the side of the road and kind of figuring out what to do and doing the research, reading the master's thesis, all that, and got it pretty nailed down. And so I was only going out on perfect nights, and still took 40, 50 nights to find one. But during that time, I mean, the amount of cuss words that were said, I'm like, everything's perfect. Why aren't they here?
Yeah.
So
I think
the more fun you have when you just sit back and relax and have fun while you're out here, the better chance you have, because you're not all high strung about it, and the better time you're going to have just while you're here enjoying the mountains.
I think what I found that helps is I have some at home, so that when I get skunked, I can come home and pull some out, and that makes me feel better. That's how I cope.
I still do that. Some of the ones that I've caught wild, I'll rub their head before I go out and try to get some luck or something, kind of like you do with bald guys.
You got to have a good luck IPA. It works every time. I think, Austin, just kind of side railing this a little bit. The night that I met you, you pulled me, John, over, and you had just spotted on a rock, and you showed us a very, very rare snake. It was one of the tantillas, right?
Oh, cuculata.
Yeah, you had just
Supposedly
found a
rare.
cuculata.
Supposedly rare.
Which is
I find so they have very similar habits to Alterna. They're a black-headed snake, centipede-eating snake. All other tantilla are tiny. These guys get 3 feet long.
They're big.
As big around as your thumb. Yeah, I found a ton of them. I'm probably over 20, 25 at this point. So I found a lot more than Alterna. I found a lot more of those than quite a few other species. But yeah, so I was working with our state herpetologist, and we were talking about getting them because right now they're state protected, they're state threatened.
The Tantillas, yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking about getting them delisted. That hasn't gone through yet. We're still trying to put together evidence to back up that decision and stuff. But one day they may come off the threatened list here in Texas.
Well, hopefully, if I don't think it's a species that people are trying to collect and export or breed. It's not something you're. Yeah, they don't. They literally eat centipedes. I hope you have centipedes.
Yeah, you're gonna catch Scolopendra, which are probably worth more than the snake.
That is actually.
I can think of nothing I would least rather do. Like,
yeah, those Scolopendras are nasty.
No thanks.
You do not. We know somebody that got bit by one, and you do not want to fuck with those things.
Basketball hand.
Yeah. So on that subject, talking about going through school, getting your master's, did you do your master's thesis on a snake, if I remember correctly?
Nope.
Oh,
I'm the turtle man.
You did turtles.
No, I wanted to do them on snakes. I really wanted to study the timbers in East Texas and do telemetry and stuff like that here in Texas. But my advisor had money for turtles, so I studied the reproductive biology of the Rio Grande cooter.
Nice.
Which is always fun to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually really interesting, though.
It was super cool. So I came out every other weekend for 2 years straight and snorkeled for turtles out here in West Texas because that species lives Devil's River tributaries, Rio Grande and its tributaries. So during that time, I snake hunted every night.
And so, being an Alterna lover, you still love all reptiles, and you still, I know we've talked about the amphibians that you find down there.
He's a fellow toad man.
Yeah, you like the toads.
Yeah, he likes him some toads.
I like my toads, so we didn't really get into what I do now, but I'm not afraid to say it. I'm a biologist for Texas Parks and Wildlife. So I'm involved with all the animals out here, mainly bighorn, pronghorn, mule deer. If we can find a good study on reptiles out here, we're always down to do it. Right now we're studying the rough-footed mud turtle.
Wow.
Some populations out here. But yeah, and then before this, I was a toad biologist in Bastrop, working on the endangered Houston toad. So I do like them all.
Yeah. What was
furry,
that?
Not furry.
Remember that toad I found here? And I sent you a picture of it, and you were like, "Oh man, that's a wiggle womp zipzord," and I was like, "Oh, that's a toad, dog."
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And it was like they don't get as far south. Do you remember what that was, Austin? God, that was 5 years ago.
I have zero recollection of that.
I'll have to look up the picture. I found a real neat little toad here, and we kind of started chatting about it. And you're like, okay, back on Alterna. Here's a good question. Do you think that the collecting of them over the years, because most people that find them usually do keep them, do you think that has contributed at all to them being harder to find, or is it kind of just always been hard as hell to find?
So I definitely don't think they used to be. I don't think they were as hard to find back in the day as they are now. Do I contribute that to over collecting? No.
Or habitat
you're going to keep not habitat loss out here really. All these ranches are massive. The 4 roads that go through the mountains now are the same 4 roads that went through there. But what has increased a ton is traffic.
Yeah.
I was walking one of these 6 mile, or I guess 6 mile South Alpine cut last night, thinking about this exact question. Because there was just cars zooming by 24/7. Yeah. And I know back in the day, they used to find them there all the time.
Yeah.
But now, the last one I know of found there was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then before that, I don't even know. It's been a long time.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know you cannot road cruise in Texas. Am I correct?
Correct.
As far as for the purpose of herping. Do you find many DORs? I don't see many pictures of DOR Alterna, and I would assume, with all the people and stuff I follow on social media, that I would see more than I do, and I don't know if that's just a part of the
There is
tight-lipped
DORs.
thing
Yeah,
or not.
there is DORs, for sure. The
Okay.
first one I ever found, I pulled up to a cut, got out of my truck, and there was one dead in front of my truck, which sucked.
Oh man.
That was on Highway 90, and like especially places like that, Highway 90, Highway 277. There's 18-wheelers every 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, I've heard 277 is so damn busy now. It's no fun to walk. You don't want to find those cuts. It's just
Even
constantly cars going by.
Even places like Langtree and Sanderson and stuff, it calms down later in the night. But
yeah,
man, at dusk it kind of sucks. But that's kind of one of the things too. I don't think that collection has kind of driven that. I really think they're getting run over more than anything. Because not only are we seeing less gray bands, we're seeing less everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see a snake last night, and I should have.
Yeah.
In between my house and the cut and on the cut. And I mean, I do think there's less snakes in general. We've also been in some really bad droughts.
Yeah.
But in my job, what I do out here on all this, being a biologist for all the private land, now that I have access and go meet these landowners who have literally 275,000 acres, there's so much habitat that even these 4 roads that go through the area, I don't think if everyone that was ever taken off that cut for the rest of down forever, I don't think it would ever make a dent in the actual population.
Yeah.
And they don't move a ton.
Yeah.
I don't think. So once they're kind of gone from maybe that cut and the cut right next, or the habitat right next to it, there's going to be a population half a mile away that's booming, but we're just catching the one that wanders over every now and then. That's my thought on it.
Significantly easier to find against rock than they are, not against a flat rock cut or not flat.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of works like a silt fence, like we use for everything else. It's just it's an obstacle that makes them spend some time on where we can look at it.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't think they live.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I've always kind of thought that also they're very sensitive. No, I think they're deep in the mountains. I think they're way underground. And I think they're a sensitive and secretive snake. And the more traffic going by there, the less are coming out. It's just a simple fact of vibrations, and the whole population will realize what times it is safer to come out, and and also I don't think less are being found now than were found 30 years ago. I think you just had a few more dedicated people looking for them a few years ago.
And they looked for them a lot different back then. They got the jump on us. They didn't have to use their legs. Bunch of lazy people.
It's really cool to just drive slow and have a light hanging out your window. And on top of that, you also had people that while they were finding them in the 70s and 80s, that were a lot more willing to talk about them. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the internet kind of became a little bit more popular of a source to talk about these animals, they wanted to put that information down, right? Like, God, I've been writing this stuff down in a journal. I'm going to put it down so that people in 30 years can find it. Now we have Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTokies and all these things. So you find an Alterna. Oh my God, that's the first thing I'm doing is posting it. So it's instant information.
Catch one at 2 a.m. It's posted at 3 a.m.
Yeah, and Austin.
And the crowds are here at 8 a.m.
And Austin, you don't do that.
Nope. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not a.
I do enjoy going out and being able to bounce from one cut to the next cut if I get bored. And whenever there's 7,500 people here, you kind of have to. I mean, I've definitely been out here on nights where you had to, if you wanted to hunt a spot, you had to get there before sundown, pull out your chair, kind of hold it down, and then once the sun goes down, you walk it, and then if you leave, somebody's going to be there before you can get back.
Yeah.
That's not the funnest.
No. Or you have people camping cuts before the sun even, it's just.
Oh yeah, that was
Already
me.
there.
I spent my honeymoon camping on the cut in Sanderson. Bachelor party.
I love the Sanderson. Sanderson is a good place to go look for snakes, and you know, there's cuts to the west, and you can hit one cut, and you go to the next cut, then you go to the next cut, then you drive back, and you can go to the east side of Sanderson, and there's cut, and you go back, and then there's a couple cuts heading back into town on your right side, and then you go up north 9 miles. It's a big loop. It's 30 miles. You're going to waste a bunch of gas, but I love that. I love doing that in Sanderson. And one of the times I went, it was awesome because me and John split up and we went and did our thing and didn't find any snakes at all. I think he found a night snake and I found of course, of all things, I found a Western Diamondback because Atrox are just everywhere. There's 15 species of rattlesnakes in West Texas and you find an Atrox. But one of the next times I went after that, there was somebody camping at cuts. And then I went 9 Mile North. There was a family walking the cut. And man, I was parked 9 Mile North, getting out of my car, and I had walked that. There's a little cut before the two big cuts on 9 Mile, and I was walking it, and I walked around my car, and I saw a car pull up and start walking the other side. Austin, is that okay? Can people do that?
It's public land, Chris. Do you carry what are they called? Roman candles in your vest to deter people? Some people do.
Yeah.
Technically, it's
now we're
legal.
talking.
Yeah, I mean, nobody owns it, but it's frowned upon for sure.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that get me are you're walking a cut doing 15 miles a night, and then somebody rolls up and just kind of rolls past you, and as soon as they get past you, they stick their light out the window and shine all the cut right in front of you.
Oh yeah, love that.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Now there was a rumor going around that in Texas, impeding on a hunt, because we do have to have a hunting license and we do have to have the reptile and amphibian verification on that hunting license.
Yep.
That impeding on a hunt is actually illegal. If I am physically looking for Alterna and you come up and tell me I need to stop while I'm on public land, could you go into that?
Yeah, I don't think that would. If there was somebody that was just out there like not letting you look for them, that would definitely come into play.
Yeah.
But a guy looking for them in front of you,
you can't do anything about that. Yeah.
That's not going to hold up.
Okay.
No, unfortunately. Throw a rock at them. That's about it.
This
Get your
rock
Roman
slipped
candles.
off of my foot into my hand, and I had to release it immediately.
It came off the cut. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't know how your tires got slashed by that rock, but they did.
Yeah.
So
there's nothing legal
to
to
really
keep them from doing it.
Somebody just pull up and walk your cut with you.
Yeah, it's just more of an etiquette thing.
Yeah, difference between legality and etiquette. Yeah, I was about
If
to
I
say.
pull up and you're on a cut, I'm definitely walking it in front of you. But
Anybody else now?
yeah.
Next time I'm in West Texas and we split up, I'm just gonna look speed, pull up before you just get out, just climb the rocks.
Yeah, and probably find an Alterna.
I know, right?
One of the best ways to find an Alterna is herp around me. If I leave a cut, it's a great time to go there because somebody always finds one.
Oh man, that has happened to you, right?
Like 15 times.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah,
He's the good luck Chuck of Alterna.
I was at 9 Mile North one night, like 5 years ago. I walked it until like 2 a.m. And I was like, all right, I'm going somewhere else. Head out. And then the next morning, we're all at the Oasis Hotel. And somebody pulled up. They're like, yeah, we got to 9 Mile about 2:15, and we found this Alterna just on the cut. I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Life is pain.
Yep.
So, not necessarily talking about snakes, but what is your favorite cut to walk? Just you personally.
Whew, that's a hard one. None of them.
Yeah, love that.
I've lately 20 miles south of Alpine.
Yeah.
20 to 30 because it's 6 miles from my house.
Yeah.
And my kid's almost 3 and starting to really dig it, and I can throw him on my shoulders and there's not much traffic. And he's having fun looking at reflectors.
Yeah.
So we have a good time down there, and I find a few more subocs there.
Subocs cool.
Probably one of the hardest places in West Texas to find a gray, man. But
Have you found one there yet?
oh, absolutely not. The guys who find them spend, I think they average like 200 nights before they find one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think I know of maybe 6 ever found there by everybody combined. So it's not a place I'm going to really just look for.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I mean, yeah, I have found a South Alpine, but it was on private land. So
The privileged private land. That's always
nice. That wasn't the worst. The first night ever looking, and just roll up on one in a buggy, shining it out the side. Doesn't get much better.
Yeah, no kidding.
Man.
That's pretty good. So what about phenotype? Let's start talking a little bit more about the snakes themselves. Is there a phenotype that really stands out to you that's your favorite?
I really like the stuff from the Davis Mountains that have big orange bands.
Yeah.
So, like the 2 that I've caught, that's about. It could get better, but I don't think it can get much better than those 2.
You have that one with those real pretty diamonds on it, and that is just about my favorite Alterna I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the best. She's in the shed right now. Can people see this, or is this just audio?
No, they'll see this on YouTube. It'll be loaded up.
Oh, sweet. You want me to grab it?
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Harry, while he's going to grab that snake, because it is a insane snake. What do you have a locality? Private collections are kind of looking at that really stand out.
Not what I have. I want some black gaps, man. I want that. Oh wow. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. The diamonds do it for me.
It just does it. That is
It just doesn't get
snake.
It doesn't get a whole lot better than that, in my opinion. So when I saw her, she was climbing up on the cut like that, and I was like, "Oh, I finally found an ugly one." And then I went to grab her and saw these diamonds, and I was like, "Well, that went from the ugliest snake I've ever seen to the possibly the best."
Austin, I think one of the first times I ever spoke with you, it's after I bought some Leonis from you. We got to talking about herping, and you sent me a video of you finding that snake, and I was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
Look at that.
So this is her cut matched wild caught male. She did not really
what cut those came from, or we not talking about that right now?
Yeah, we're not yet. One day.
Yeah.
One day I'll have some babies for sale. It's not an uncommon cut, but
no, it's not. Yeah.
I never see anybody on it. So we're not.
We can keep it that way.
I'm sorry to be one of those.
It's in the Davis Mountains, right?
Those guys.
It's in the Davis Mountains.
Davis Mountains, and everybody hits it. Everybody drives by it. It's nothing super secret, but
yeah, I've walked it. Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. So most people, I just got super lucky. So that second one that I showed, that was my lifer.
Oh man!
Roll up on him about knee high off the cut, and pretty much lose all feeling in my legs.
Yeah. I remember talking to you the next day because you found 2 that night, right?
No, I found 1 that night.
And then 2 the next night?
And 2 the next night.
Yeah.
And so let me grab the other 2. And it's been a while now. I think that was probably 4 years ago.
That would have been, 2020, yeah.
The next night, I found this one there.
Mm-hmm.
Which he's respectable.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really good,
it's a real nice snake.
Really good testament for the locality phenotype.
Yeah, and then
looking at all these.
This was the same night. This is the double that I caught. Look at this. Pretty much no orange, just straight speckle. It filled.
And
those are all the same locality, right?
Yeah, all the same locality.
Good example of they look like this until they look like this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one right there.
Yeah.
Look at all those speckles on the neck.
Stipple.
We call that chaos, Austin. We'll be getting into that later.
Oh, chaos.
It's chaos.
Call John so he can tell me I'm wrong.
I love that phenotype. I love that.
He'll call you.
Yeah. He'll just sense in the air that I'm wrong about something.
Austin, great time to bring up. Were those pine shavings we just saw?
Those are pine shavings from Tractor Supply.
Shun this man.
Ever had an issue?
I've never had an issue.
I don't think anybody ever has.
Keep them. I mean, don't.
Not I do in the last decade.
for the most part, I do a deep clean twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm just spot cleaning.
Yeah.
And as long as I don't have too much of a problem here with them getting wet and staying wet. Obviously, when I lived in Bastrop, that was a little more of a problem. So I was really on top of spot cleaning, and if any water spilled, I cleaned it up. Just grabbed those shavings out immediately. But man, I've been using. I was on Aspen. I tried the not Recti chip. What are those tiny little bitty chips? Sandy chips.
Yeah. Sandy chips are the worst.
Dude, I know
hognose breeders love them, and I know why they love them. But we're not hognose breeders. Well, I bred hognose this year, but and you bred hognose. But regardless, I know hognose breeders love them. But the Sandy chips, I'm so clean, and everything has to be perfect for me. And those stupid Sandy chips, you just touch your snake and they just fly everywhere. Oh my god!
Yeah,
it freaks me out.
So the way I feed my snakes is I get a huge jugs and just dump frozen mice into them and go stick them under the hot water and let them thaw out in 30 minutes. I know. Yeah. I think you don't use water, right?
No, and we're not going to do that with those Jani you just got, right? We're not going to. You're fine because you got 15% humidity. I don't thaw my mice out with water because a lot of the desert species that I have, as far as vertebralis, Pitchophis jani, and before some of the other species I've kept, they will more naturally regurge a wet prey item, and I keep them with less water, shallower water bowls, but I also have 60% humidity.
Yeah,
which
so
is something. Yeah.
Even when I was in Bastrop, I still thawed them out in the water, and I've never had an issue. What I have had was when I moved from one house to the next, the water changed, obviously, because like now I'm on a well. Before I was on city water. Took them a while to get to switch over because I think that somehow in whatever's in the water was also one of the prey triggers. Yeah. That they learned. But anyway, so I thaw mine out in water, and then I dump them on a big table. Spread them out by size, and usually in that time they dry out a little bit, but they're still damp. They'll still pick up a shaving, and those Sandy chips cover them.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So I'm not about that life. So large flake pine shavings from Tractor Supply is what I've used for probably the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, and we know a lot of people that use them. They get kind of poo-pooed on in the hobby, and it's kind of ridiculous. People have been doing that for years.
Because oils or something?
Yeah, the opinion I heard, or the thought process that I heard that I kind of tend to agree with on that is that an older way of processing them involved some chemical that was killing stuff or making stuff sick, and whatever it is that's done now doesn't seem to do that. But
cool.
I really don't know.
Most of the people that I know that keep them on pine shavings. It's hard to beat $6 for one of those big compressed bags.
Yeah, definitely cheaper than Aspen. I still use Aspen, but I've definitely been tempted to make the switch.
I used Aspen before I went to pine, and I tested it on just a couple snakes.
I get the 40-pound bag of Aspen, and it's $20 or something, $22, maybe a little bit more. But for me, I'm allergic to everything, and I've got to wear gloves anyway, so I just stick with the Aspen. It's the least amount of dust, and for me, it's easy. Anyways, localities that we love. Harry, are there any localities that stand out to you?
I really like black gaps, or at least the ones I see. I like those. And a lot of that. You see, Floridian struggling with Texan geography over here.
And then everything has to be mile marked and.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, no, I definitely appreciate the hell out of that. Oh yeah. 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 The white saturation on the outside of the black really does it for me with those guys. Yeah.
I'll send you some babies next year.
Okay. All right. You know what? Just know Austin.
It's on the internet forever now. Austin.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of the 3 Mile West Sanderson stuff. I love those dark, dingy, black, almost dark indigo blue snakes. I'm breeding for it. I'm working a whole project within myself on 3 miles, making the dingiest,
Those are
darkest.
really, really cool too. Like
Yeah.
as I'm watching, just some that you've given to other people, watching those grow up and really like black out like that. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Here's-
Austin got to see the Dark Knight last
Oh
weekend.
yeah.
Oh,
This
that's a
one
paint
came-
shop production, yeah.
Yeah, this one came from you.
So that's my wild caught male to the dark F1 female, and you could just see that crazy
Nice.
white creeping up on the sides.
If he will cooperate.
That's a cool snake. That's the first Alterna I hatched, I think.
Yeah, it was,
might have been
I think it was that first clutch.
first clutch I got. Yeah. I love how dark they get, and they go through this huge ontogenic change because they don't hatch like that at all. They're not
No.
near
He was-
their light when they hatch.
They all have slight face. You don't. You can tell that some are probably going to be dark when they
Yeah.
hatch, but they're light. You don't hatch a snake that black. That doesn't happen.
They have a little bit of blushing in them. I held a couple back from last year that came from my black male, and Austin, you saw him. It's a black snake, right? Like he's really special. And one of them went to John, and the one I kept is twice as dark as that one. It's crazy. I on some of the localities that really stand out to me, I love the Boy Scout Road stuff. I think as far as Alterna go, the Boy Scout Road are kind of the most unique because they kind of don't look like anything else. They're flip all ugly.
Some of them are pretty good, but
You
good
get
ones
some
are
of the
rare.
ones. You get the ones that have where the saddle should be, and then the orange bleeds out past it for some reason.
Yeah.
Also, most Boy Scout roads do not hatch with orange, and then as they age, they start getting that orange blushing, which is really neat. They're very, very hard to come by. I've had a female for years and still haven't found. I got an F1 female, and I still haven't found an F1 male, or obviously not a wild type.
Have you ever heard Boy Scout Road?
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
It sucks.
What?
No,
Well-
it's great. I mean, I got married on Boy Scout Road at the back. That's where
I
our
have
wedding
your-
was, in the middle of the road.
And what did you find that night?
So that day, I mean, we got married at like 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And so we took pictures and whatnot back there. And as we're driving out of Boy Scout, we find a huge female hognose. And my wife and I, about 3 years prior to that, found a male at nighttime, 11 p.m., found a male hognose.
Yeah.
And so, and looking at the pictures and using like the geo referencing or whatever, they're less than like 40 yards apart.
It's crazy.
That's as locality as it gets.
Yeah.
And
And I have that pair, and I produced eggs from this year.
yeah,
I'm
hell
excited.
yeah.
They're
I'm pretty
so
pumped
cool.
too. I've got a baby, so I've only ever produced one clutch because I like to breed Alterna and not necessarily hog noses, and they require some different stuff.
They
They're
do.
a little hotter.
They
and
want
I
to be
don't wanna
warmer.
change. Yeah, I don't want to change what I do for a hog nose, so I would rather you have them. And
Yeah. And a huge shout out to BlackBox Cages on their XR20 for making dual heat zones on their on their XR20 rack. So my XR20 rack, the higher side I have about 82 degrees, and the lower side I have at 80 degrees. On the low side, and Austin just saw this, I keep all my males on the bottom, and then I have a few of my raise up. Really, only my raise up females, because once they get bigger, I put them into bigger enclosures. But I have my females at about a little bit 82. Now I don't have any Alterna in there. But I do have some Leonis, some Mex, some corn snakes, and that's if you get to the very top rack, it's about 84 degrees, and that's where that female hog is at. And one thing that I noticed on that hog, you need to feed females that are going into breeding like every 4 or 5 days, or
At
they
least.
start. Yeah, they ovulate and they start snapping weight down.
Yeah. That's the problem I had with her every year is she'd ovulate, I'd throw them
Yeah.
together, they'd breed, and I feed my females, usually when I'm feeding them heavy, it's once a week. And
Yeah.
once a week was not enough for her. And I just never could get her to produce a clutch. Just now that I've got kids and whatnot,
It's tough, man.
it's tough. And she was the only snake I had to do it for, so she's yours.
When those kids get older, and Harry, this is a good thing to know. Things do get easier, especially when they start helping you in the reptile room. It gets awesome.
I am ready for that.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm just ready for head control so we can go hit some dirt roads looking for some stuff at night. That's what I'm waiting on, man.
When they hit about 6, something clicks on them when they're about 6 years old when they're in school. when they're in kindergarten, they really start popping off those social cues, and they kind of get a little bit more identity outside of just mom and dad. And this really neat thing happens, and that's what happened with my daughter. I was very lucky, and now she's all in on snakes again. So
yeah. So Davis, that's my kid's name. I forget.
Also after the Davis Mountains, where you got married.
After the Davis Mountains. So he freaking loves snakes, and his favorite one. He comes in here every single day, and he pulls out that baby from the pair that I gave you. Of all the great Alterna huge orange bands,
it's a hog nose.
He pulls out the hog's nose, and he says, "This is my favorite." And I said, "You suck." But
that's why you had a backup kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I got a backup. Yeah.
Oh, try again.
But no, it's pretty cool, especially because that's the road we got married on and all that.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's really a really special story and super fun. And Boy Scout Road is not an easy place to hurt. There's really only just one big cut and a lot of walking. It's a place that if you could, road cruise would probably be great, but I wouldn't do it because it's massively illegal.
My buddy's the game warden over there, and he checks.
Yeah. Oh, no, they keep an eye on him. But also, the sub-ox from that area are really pretty.
Great sub-ox. Best in West Texas, in my opinion. Not necessarily on Boy Scout Road, but once you get up to Wild Rose Pass, 10 miles, 15 miles away.
Wild Rose Pass.
The best sub-ox.
Orange and sharp white. And the markings on the back are just perfect. Yes, I agree. The the Wild Rose Pass are actually the pair that I had that Michael Gillen, one of our friends, actually bred this year.
Nice.
They're beautiful. I also think that the blacktail rattlesnake, and Crotalis what's the
Ornatus.
Wow. Don't listen to the Floridian.
Because the blacktails in Texas are different than the blacktails in Arizona, I think.
And they were molasses. So they were molasses Ornatus up until like 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Not that long ago. They got split into their own species. So now it's just Ornatus.
And Smitty, edit that out.
I think they are beautiful. I think actually the prettiest blacktail I've ever seen was up in Madera Canyon when you took us up there past Observatory Road.
Yeah, they're real yellow up there.
Yeah, and God, that little one that we found, and it was like 62 degrees or something.
Yeah.
Which that's we don't. Temps don't matter; they're fake. Weather is fake, right? You're gonna
everything's fake.
The rules are made up, and the temps don't matter.
I found an emery eye over there. We were doing some special training at the Madera camp. We walk out; it's like 50 degrees, and there's an emery eye cruising. I'm like, well, I guess we're gonna go look for alternatives.
Yeah, we found a lepidus
in January.
We found a real pretty pink lepidus on Observatory Road. I love Observatory Road. I don't think I necessarily have seen any good Observatory Road Alterna. I'm sure they exist.
There's been some that have been caught that are that donut male that I showed.
Yeah,
that real orange one. There's one that
like
could have been siblings.
There's not a lot of Observatory Road stuff floating around out there.
There's really not, and which is crazy because there will be. One of my buddies has some, and he's got some nice ones, and he's breeding them. I think he might have got some this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be at some point. I don't have.
You could spend a night. You could spend a weekend. You could go camp in Madera Canyon, that beautiful little creek area, and you could spend a whole damn weekend. You could spend Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, and just do Observatory Road and Madera, and it's also gorgeous. I think it's one of the prettiest places in West Texas.
And in the middle of the day, it's 80 degrees.
Yeah,
and so you can throw up a hammock and watch the acorn woodpeckers, and it's a good time. So before I lived here, that's what we did. We camped at Madera Canyon every time we came here because it's free. I don't know if you're technically supposed to camp there or not, but
I think you can. Yeah. You see a lot of bug guys there collecting bugs.
Dude, those beetle guys are as nuts as the Alterna guys.
Yeah. Dude, selling bugs are like $100.
Yeah. He was telling me that. They're just throwing them in ethanol and selling them on Amazon. And so I pulled over one night to talk to some of those bug guys and showed them some. I had a lepidus in a bucket that we were getting some DNA samples off of. And they were like, oh, that's cool. What are you looking for? I told them about the gray banded Kingsnake, showed them pictures and all that. Literally the next day, they post on like Texas Field Herpers, is this a gray banded Kingsnake? And they caught one right after I left. I was
Yep,
like,
that tracks.
where? Yep.
That tracks. That's birder syndrome.
The way.
Yeah.
Other cool localities. While we're telling these stories, the Huecos, ain't nothing look like a Hueco.
Christmas
they're
mountains.
insane. The Christmas
Dude,
mountains.
the Christmases are the goat in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have a pair of
Smitty
Christmas
reminded me just now about Christmas mountains because I'm.
Look at this.
Look
I don't know
at
things.
that.
Oh yeah.
So I got
that's one of
this
the-
from the late great
Oh yeah.
Clay Garrett right before he
Ship it.
passed. This was his holdback, and I
That is a
convinced him
dark
to
one.
sell it to me. Yeah, have you
Yeah.
seen? So he's still growing up. He bred this year. They locked like 15 times and then produced slugs.
Mhm.
I can't figure this out. Anyway, he's just dark and super
That's
orange.
so badass.
And the female I've got for him, she doesn't have as much orange. She's more just solid black, and she's darker.
Yeah.
Dude, Christmas Mountains, they can produce some of the ugliest Alterna
Yeah.
and some of the best. I've seen some real ugly ones come out. I mean, there's no such thing as an ugly Alterna.
No, there's not. We
But if they were-
call them ugly, but yeah.
But I've
It's a
seen
sliding
some,
scale.
dude, and it's hard. I've walked the Christmases so much, and I've never found one there.
Austin, have you ever seen the coolest reptile in Texas in the Christmas mountains, or where did you see those?
You mean the one that I sent you a picture of and then released?
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah. Great for me. That was great for me. It did good things for our friendship and my blood pressure all at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially because you just sent me a picture of it and didn't say anything.
Yeah. So technically, let's get into the legality again.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
If you have a commercial breeder permit,
Okay.
you are not allowed to possess a blacklisted reptile.
Okay.
So you're trying to get me to break the law, Chris.
I don't want you to do that. The reptile we're talking about is the Coleonyx reticulatus.
Yeah.
They're not blacklisted anymore. They're whitelisted as of 2 years ago.
No, so they got moved on to the blacklist. They were state threatened. They were protected.
Okay, they were state threatened. They got moved on to the blacklist.
Yes.
Okay.
So anybody with a hunting license and a reptile and amphibian stamp can keep up to 6.
Yes, correct. Okay.
As soon as you get the commercial breeder permit, which you have to sell native snakes in Texas,
Correct.
you can only possess whitelisted snakes and reptiles and amphibians.
Okay.
Coleonyx are on the blacklist.
So it's, as well as Texas Indigos.
Correct. So all the
Yeah.
stuff and timbers that just got put on there, everything that just got moved off of the threatened list is now on the blacklist. So anybody can catch up to 6 unless you have a commercial breeder permit. Then you can have 0.
Interesting.
Yeah, makes not a ton of sense. But
Well, with a state as large as Texas, that sounds like it's difficult for something
Now,
like that
in
kind of a list. I don't know.
Texas, if you produce Texas animals and sell them in Texas, you have to have a commercial breeder's license. Now, if you sell them outside of Texas, you do not have to have that license.
I'm not sure that that's a fact. I think you still have to have it legally.
Well,
Not
obviously,
saying anybody
I have mine, so obviously I can't have Coleonyx.
Right, I've got mine.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, Austin. You know what? I'm not a cop, right? So we're
yeah,
not,
hey, I'm not a cop either.
Mm.
I work for the department, but we're biologists.
Yeah.
I'm legal.
Yeah.
If anybody out of state wants to be legal, read the rules.
Yeah. That's also true. That is very important.
We
to
are
know
not
about-
offering legal advice.
No,
No.
but if
Nothing
you're
we
in
say here
Mexico-
Please
should be used in lieu or
Please
instead
don't
of looking
fire
on the
me.
website.
Yeah. No, but if you want to sell a gray band and the person's in New Mexico, it's something you cannot do, right? Like,
No.
so you got to know your local laws. It's the same thing as selling a corn snake to Georgia, or there's a handful of snakes you just can't do that. I can't buy a Louisiana pine snake from somebody in a different state because they're fully protected here in Texas. Oh, go ahead.
I think you have to know that as a seller.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just sell to anybody. I think you've got to. I mean, at least I make sure whenever I sell to somebody, I look up their state laws.
Yeah.
And make sure I'm not about to get got.
Yeah, well, Austin, I'm so glad that you're doing things right. You know what I mean?
I try.
You just gotta be like me and just not sell snakes, right? Like, I just give them away. So
That's true. That I followed.
Yeah,
the
I'm
paint
looking
shop
around right
method.
now. Yeah.
oh yeah, you
Well-
sent a lot of snakes to us.
You
Yeah.
two, you two people right here. You did this. You did this to me.
So I got gifted. One of my buddies was going through a time, and I got gifted a collection from him. And ever since then, I've gifted a lot of snakes.
Yeah, I like doing that. I like making enough money on some of the kind of corn snakes and some of the pine snakes I produce to feed my collection. And I breed a handful of geckos that I not even from here. And I make my money. I feed my collection. I put a few bucks in the bank to be able to get to next year. And then honestly, I send a lot of snakes out for either extremely discounted rates or just free. Like I like sending stuff to my buddies. Anybody that knows me knows this is a fact. I don't. I need to just cover the bills and make sure everybody else. It's a passion, right?
Yeah.
God help me if this ever became a job. I'd lose my fucking mind.
Yeah. I make enough to pay for mice and shavings and all that every year. And then even though, I mean, the ones that I really like, I'll sell for a little more. Other than that, I pretty much wholesale. Last year, I pretty much wholesaled everything.
Yeah.
As non-feeders. But that's also because I like to elk hunt and be gone the entire month of September.
You also like to go hunt all over the place and disappear and then randomly show us a picture of a dead animal and a month and a half later. And it's pretty fun. Well, hey guys, I'm going to step aside and use the restroom real quick, but could you actually talk a little bit about why some of the ideas, why some of these phenotypes are different per locality?
Yeah. Harry, do you want to give it a stab?
Why?
Being somebody that's never been to Texas.
Oh yeah. I'm so qualified to do this.
I can go into it if you don't want to.
You first, yeah.
Okay. So why the phenotypes are different and where they are. So Eastern Range, kind of Sanderson East, Glass Mountains, North Marathon East, everything's limestone, which is a light gray color. So you see the ground colors are light gray. They're matching that limestone. Once you get into the more igneous stuff of the mountains, go down to the river, down to Black Gap. Black Gap's a special place because it's got both. You start to see more of this brown
igneous stuff.
Yeah, they're matching the rocks. But what they're also doing is matching venomous species or trying to mimic venomous species, especially in the east.
Like the lepidus and stuff, yeah.
Exactly. So Alterna phase looks like a lepidus. There's one night,
lepidus, yeah.
Yeah. There's one night in Sanderson. I was walking. It was probably 3 or 4 a.m. I was tired. And I see this gray and black banded snake, just the midsection.
Grab it. Just grab it, right?
The head was behind a rock and the tail was behind a rock. And I was like, that's a gray band. And I walk up to about 3 feet from it, and it was not. It was a lepidus.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Blair's phase mimics copperheads. So if you look at
I didn't see that until I can't remember who I heard say that once before.
Yep.
Like the Trans-Pecos copperhead, like the wide, that wide banded. See, I didn't make that association because of our copperheads, and I was like, I don't see it, but yeah, and that kind of blew my mind a lot. The Blair's phase and the Trans-Pecos
because we have those
copperhead.
big broadband. Technically, the broadbanded, I don't really care about.
Whatever.
They're still Trans-Pecos in my heart. And then somebody posted a picture of both of the snakes in black and white, like most predators see, like dogs and stuff like that. And man, they look similar.
They do, sure. Yeah.
There was one night I was walking West Langtree, and I was probably 60 to 80 nights in of my 120 night slump, and I look up on the dirt road, and there's this black snake crossing it. I was like, there it is. Finally found one. Take off running. It was a copperhead. Yep. Found 3 copperheads that night.
Those are the Pictogaster?
Yeah, Pictogaster.
Yeah, those are cool. Those are really, really badass copperheads.
Yeah, I'm jealous of you guys for those.
And they're variable where they're at, too. You see them up in Iran. They're real dark red. You get them in the mountains, and they're like, peachy.
Yeah.
They're super cool.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I like the lower land ones that have a little bit more contrast. Personally, yeah, I think they're neat.
And then where they look, so we were talking about why they look different where they are.
Yeah, Lepidus.
Lepidus, yeah, we went over that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so. Like Chris said, I didn't know that it had been proven that stuff with Big Blair's phase had milk snake DNA, but that's kind of the assumption that I've been rolling on because it makes sense.
God, somebody smart is going to listen to this podcast
And be like, these stupid sons of
These
that guy's a
bastards.
biologist. You should fire him.
Just like when you messaged me after the Janai episode and we're like, Chris, that's not how genetics work. You don't get more males or females. And then this year, oh my God, I got to take a tangent. So I didn't brewmate my Janai this year, and I knew that I was going to have a male heavy clutch, right? Because last year I proved it. If I brewmate them, I get more females. And I got 1 male and 5 females. And I had literally messaged Dr. Zach Loafman, and I was like, I am so sorry for being so goddamn stupid. So
Today,
I'm not a scientist.
Today's Janai Giblet brought to you by Hey Dudes.
Janai
Brought to you
Giblet.
Oh, I hate Hey Dude so much. Oh man.
Hey, I thought Hey Dudes was supposed to be a sponsor on this one.
Yeah, that's actually the next episode. We're doing a.
I didn't want to do that to you right before bringing you out because you collect them like Alterna.
We're doing the next episode is how to avoid domestic violence by alcoholism, and it's brought to you by Hey Dudes. Anyways,
so back on topic. I do think so. Areas where you find a lot of Blair stuff, so you find milk snakes, and I was pretty skeptical. I was a little skeptical of that because I've seen some stuff in the mountains that's got some big orange bands like Madeira. Madeira's, I think some of Brian Box's stuff is huge. Got big orange bands, and I'd never heard of a milk snake from there. And then somebody found one last year, or 2 years ago. I was like, well, there it is.
And the Salinops, specifically the milk snakes in your area, are gorgeous. They are beautiful.
They're sweet.
Of course, he's not saying that.
So this one I caught in 2018 on Boy Scout Road.
Look at that.
Oh yeah.
And they're so chill.
So chill. Well, yeah.
It freaks me out to see a tricolored snake holding still like that when I have Scarlet Kings a foot away from me that would teleport into my closet if I picked it up like that.
Really?
Annulata are a little bit twitchier, but for the most part, pretty chill. Also, they're big. Annulata get big though.
Real big.
Yeah, Annulata can get like 3.5 foot, 4 foot.
And Annulata skirted the great clumping of like 2018 or whenever that was.
Yeah,
which is also bullcrap, but that's not nor here nor there.
Because those are no longer Salinops per taxonomy, which is fake, right? Like taxonomy's fake.
Yeah, taxonomy's made up.
Because
it's fake.
You heard it here from the scientist.
A literal scientist. That's right. You're like you're like the guy.
We're all gonna have bags over our heads tomorrow.
Don't quote me on anything. Don't send this to my boss.
Dr. Zach.
No legal taxonomic advice given.
Yeah,
Austin is going to listen to this episode, and he is going to punch the screen in his car.
Those bastards.
Phylogenetics is fake.
Okay, moving on.
All right. Anyway, so milk
let's
snakes from here to Canada are all the same. And then you go look at some of those milk snakes. They're not the same. Whatever. Off my soapbox. I only care about Alterna.
I love it.
So kind of one of the last questions on the localities. What is the rarest locality that we have anybody's found?
There's murmurings of a shafter from back in the day. I've never seen a picture. Dude, River Road's hard. Christmas Mountains are hard. Black Gap's hard. Waco's
Black
hard.
Gap's real hard. And a lot of those Black Gaps were found because people had access to the public land that was available there. Dan Johnson and a lot of his family, or some of the people he hung out with, I think had access to a lot of that public land. And he did come out and publish a lot of that on his website. And dude, there's very, very few Black Gaps ever found.
Yep. And not only is it hard, it's way out there.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to Black Gap, you're going. It's
Also, it's really weird because you go down all the way down to the La Linda Bridge, and it will be 70 degrees the whole way there. And then you'll get to Black Gap, which is a 30-mile stretch of road or something. It's long. It goes all the way to Mexico, through the northern side of Big Bend, and you'll get to the end of Black Gap, and it'll be the middle of the night, and it'll be 95 degrees.
Yep. And that's a cool night.
Yeah, that's a cool night. It could be 100 degrees at night.
I've been on River Road one night, midnight, top of the big hill. It was 102, wind blowing 98 miles an hour, and I was like, "Why am I here?" But my advisor kind of got me into Alterna hunting.
Yeah.
He was a big Alterna guy back in the day, not liked by some people. Me and him got along great, so it was fine. He told me he found an Alterna on the top of the big hill at 102 degrees one night.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he said it was moving at Mach 2.
Yeah.
But back to those things, you never know when you're going to find them.
No, I was blown away when I really started spending some time West Texas, and I don't get to go there a lot. I didn't even get to go last year, and work and kid and family and Daytona and other things going on. And it's not
low testosterone,
alcoholism, male pattern baldness, all the things that hit us. It's not an easy place to get to. You're either flying to San Antonio or flying to El Paso. Now I drive because I'm here, but
or Midland.
You go to Midland, and it's still 4.5, 5 hours to get to Alpine.
Yeah, my closest HEB is like 3.5 hours.
Yeah, and once you get there, now Alpine is pretty nice, but go to Sanderson. There is a Stripes, which is a corner store. And there is a restaurant that literally has a sign on the outside of it that says, "We are open when we want to be." I don't know what those hours are. I have eaten there once, and most of the time it is closed. There's two gas stations.
You tell me it was a dry town?
There's a food truck there now.
It's not a dry town. They just don't have a liquor truck. But
a liquor truck.
Oh,
that's no, Florida.
Sorry. That's the nickname for my 4Runner.
So,
but there's no liquor stores or anything. Yeah.
Since the tornado the other day, I think they brought in a food truck that's open a little more. It was there before, but I think it's open more now. I think another restaurant just opened there in Sanderson, kind of to feed everybody.
There's some cool stuff in Marathon. There's some cool stuff in Alpine. There's south down in Terralingua. Terralingua's badass.
Dude, Terralingua is popping.
Yeah.
That is a tourist location, and there's places to stay and places to eat, and some dang good barbecue. DB's barbecue, taqueria is good.
Writing this down.
I've stayed down in Lajitas at that resort. I played golf at the Blackjack Crossing golf course, the #1 ranked golf course in Texas. That's badass. It's also extremely expensive. You're going to spend some money. I've been to the Thirsty Goat at the bar that's there. I've met the mayor of Lajitas, which is literally a goat.
Clay Henry.
Clay Henry.
Oh
I've been to the Longhorn Museum. There's a lot of cool things, but here's the thing that people miss: Lajitas to Alpine is not a 30-minute drive.
There's a sign next to my house that says Big Bend National Park 100 miles.
Yeah,
and I live 12 miles south.
Yeah,
of Alpine.
It's
a poke down there.
It's 2.5 hours, I think, from Lajitas to Alpine. It is an hour and a half from Alpine to Sanderson. It's 4 hours to El Paso. From Alpine to Fort Davis, if you're going to go up the Olympia Canyon, is an hour, maybe. And then
it takes me an hour.
Yeah, and then going through the Olympia Canyon up to Boy Scout Road is just about another hour, maybe 45 minutes. It's a massive, massive area, and these cuts are not just every 2 cute little seconds. You know, when we talk about 9 Mile north of Sanderson, that is a 9-mile drive there and back. It's 18 miles. Then you go to 3 Mile west. Then you go to 7 Mile west. You go 12 Mile west, and then you come back to east. You're going to put 50, 60, 70 miles on your vehicle every night. That's just Sanderson. Right?
And some of these cuts are huge too. Yeah. Like walking 6 Mile last night, I tracked it on my watch. Just going down to the bottom and back to my truck was 2 miles.
Mm-hmm.
That was one pass.
Yeah, and then somebody every 5 years might find a snake there, and we're talking Alterna. Might find an Alterna there. Yeah.
Blacktails are everywhere. If you want to find a blacktail, I can help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blacktails are badass. Also, y'all have those cool ass blackneck darters. Those things are
Yeah.
cool.
Especially in the eastern range. The eastern
Those are
blacknecks,
really cool.
like 277 Juno, those things are vibrant.
Yeah, arid garters are really neat.
It's such an odd concept to me,
Yeah.
Like I think of them being like, nature scenes and like swamp dwellers and stuff.
You're
They're
a swamp
desert
dweller.
garters.
I am a swamp dweller.
When a hillbilly and a redneck meet, what do? They make a podcast about Alterna.
Oh my god, a darn good one.
Darn good one. All right, so we do have to talk about something that we let's talk a little bit about breeding. Let's stay on Alterna breeding because
Okay.
I want to spend a little bit of time talking about morphs, and I know that's not something y'all have a bunch of history on.
Abominations.
Yeah, I know y'all are specifically Austin's going to be anti-morph, but that's
I'm
okay.
excited.
We're going to talk about what's out there, but let's talk about breeding and some of the locality breeding issues. Austin, how do you go about breeding Alterna?
So as y'all have said in the past, we all subscribe to the Church of Lassiter. I've made some tweaks,
Yeah,
for sure. Brewmate 50 degrees for 90 days. That's not the ticket.
No.
At least here it's not. I had so many clutches of slugs this year.
I think that's across the board this year. I think
It
everybody
was.
has had a bad season.
But why? Yeah, talking
El
about
Nino, La Nina.
yeah, that's what they say. It's all made up.
Weather is fake. You already
So
heard
much
this
of
from a
all of this
scientist.
is made up.
No, but I mean, and that is a little good point we can hit on this year. Austin, Harry, we've talked to, we know a lot of people in this hobby. Everybody had a bad year this year.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know of a single person who had a good year this year.
I had 5 or 6 clutches of slugs, which is just
Yep.
weird, right? Like it's.
I had like 12.
Yeah.
And 8 or 9 clutches of good eggs.
Yeah.
Which is last year I had like 1 clutch of slugs.
Yeah.
And everything else was good. I didn't breed as much. I got a ton of first time breeders, so I know that's part of it.
That's part of it, yeah.
But still, it was weird. Snakes that laid good clutches last year laid slugs this year.
Mm-hmm.
Snakes that I breed every year that laid good clutches didn't lay good clutches this year. And I did nothing different.
Yeah.
If anything, I built this new snake room and everything's more controlled than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So,
I
50 degrees for 90 days is what I do. Yeah. Take them off feed a month before. Feed the crap out of them. Well, not as soon as they warm up. I usually give them a week or two and kind of judge their attitude towards mice before I start hammering them. Give them one small one to kind of warm up, ease them into it. But within a month, I'm feeding the crap out of the females.
Oh yeah.
And that's about it. I mean, I don't really do anything other than that.
I've kind of noticed with Alterna, specifically Alterna, you get no action until after that first shed.
Yeah.
I never see a female be receptive to a male until after she sheds.
I pair them anyway. I throw them in.
We all do.
Yeah, but they don't. I don't think there's much interest when she's ovulating. That male knows, and it goes from you've been throwing this snake in for 3 or 4 weeks, and really not much interest to you open the cage and that male is going at it.
Yeah, and they breed quick, dude. They breed so fast.
Oh yeah, I stay in the snake room the entire time they're breeding, especially after my mishap this year. I had a female 277 eat a male. So I threw them together. My 2-year-old found a rattlesnake in our quail coop about the exact time I threw them together. So I had to go deal with that because he loves snakes and doesn't know what a rattlesnake is.
Yeah, it's like a thing, yeah.
So I took probably 20 minutes or so to try to teach him rattlesnakes are bad while we're out there. Come back and he is gone.
Yeah.
And she was fat. So it didn't take her very long to eat him.
No.
But that was just a mishap on my part.
Alterna eat very fast. Very, very fast compared to most of my other snakes. And it's probably just because of their habitat and their typical, where they're at, how fast they have to eat prey before they become prey.
Yep.
Something I've noticed with mine, I have this tendency to forget they're king snakes with all these getula around here until they remind me they are in fact king snakes.
Yes, and you smell like a snake, and they will eat a snake.
Yeah. They got a little bit of that dog in them still.
You know, on the contrary, I know people that have cohabbed
Absolutely.
Alterna the whole time they had that pair.
Yep.
I will say that I think that these snakes predeterminately have ideas of how you are feeding them and where the prey is coming from. So when you are introducing stuff, it is who to keep an eye on them. Austin, the situation you're talking about is uncommon with Alterna.
For sure. I mean, I've been doing it. Not
long time.
lasted a long, but I think 6 years now.
Yeah. I'm about the same, about 6 years with Alterna at least.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've never even had an Alterna look like it was going to do that, but it does happen. I've had a corn snake have another corn snake not halfway, maybe a third down its mouth. And I was able to pull them apart, but corn snakes are specifically stupid sometimes. So.
And you ought to do it. So
oh yeah,
this year one of my Leonis wanted to eat every male. I bred her to a melanistic, and she tried to eat him every time. And there was one day I fed her 3 large mice before I put him in there.
Oh,
and
shit.
then on the third one, I let her get it halfway down, put the male in. She spit the mouse out and wrapped up the male. I was like, what is it? You couldn't eat him if you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. My Leonas try to eat each other. Not every time. It's weird. When they breed, they don't try to eat each other. But if the female's not receptive, she instantly wants to eat the male. And dude, I could feed them that day, the day before. I don't care.
This female was receptive because they only locked one time.
Yeah.
And I got them apart, put the mouse back in, let it get like tail down, put him in.
Yeah.
He bred her. That was the only time they ever locked, and they produced fertile eggs.
That's
so
awesome.
She was just being a hussy.
That's, with the Getula stuff, like, and then they breed for 25 hours. So it's like really tough because I'm like, I do want to sleep. But yeah, have you noticed any localities being a little bit different as far as pairing or tougher to breed or anything like that?
Not really. 9-milers seem to do good every year.
Yeah, you made some badass 9-milers.
Yeah,
I love these things.
And she laid 9 this year. That should
Nice.
hatch in about 3 or 4
weeks. That is a monster clutch.
Yeah, I'm proud of her.
Yeah,
she's been getting extra mice.
Hit up Austin for 9-miler, dude. Those. Do you have one you can show us real quick?
I've got her.
Yeah, she's badass.
I've got one of the yearlings that looks nothing like the majority of the rest of the clutch, but it's one of my favorite ones that I have.
So
in this house.
she's a Colin Smith.
Look at that.
F1.
Look at that.
Conversely,
that's one of her babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that was like cocktail straw.
Look at that.
Let me pull out her male. I caught this male 3 years ago now.
You caught that male the night before I walked 9 Mile for 3 nights.
So that's the male that I caught there.
Yeah, the night before I walked it.
It looks a lot like the male counterpart to this one.
That one's badass.
And the night after you walked it, one of my buddies caught an insane female.
Yeah, I know. I found an Atrox, Austin.
Hey, didn't get skunked, baby.
Yeah, didn't get skunked.
I did not get skunked. And we also found we went down to Black Gap on the second night before we went back to Sanderson, and I found that badass Sonoran. Ooh,
yeah. They don't bite.
They don't. Sonoran don't bite until they like actually do bite a whole bunch, and you're just bleeding everywhere, explaining to John how they don't bite. Yeah. Hey, but you know what? After she stopped biting, she was a really good snake.
Yeah. So looking at breeding localities, this was my first year breeding Wacos. She slugged. The mountain stuff. Tyler Carlson caught a gravid female back in the day and gave her to me. She did really well. those eggs did good. They all hatched.
Is that the male I have?
Yes. Yep. So that's a
Fox cut?
rabbit.
Yeah.
Um,
That's aforementedly called fox cut.
yes, that's
Olympia
what
Canyon, yeah.
that's what I called it. Somebody else probably has a different name. It's not really in Olympia. It's kind of halfway between Olympia and State Park.
Yeah.
Me and Tyler started calling it that because every night we walked it, there was a family of foxes on top just murdering snakes. Probably in the last 2 or 3 years, I haven't seen foxes on it. So yeah, we call it fox cut. It's closer to the state park than it is to Olympia.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not claiming that I'm naming anything, but that's what I call it. I've had a little more trouble with the Montaigne stuff. I've got some state park cuts that I've bred for 3 or 4 years now, and they've never produced a fertile clutch. 277s every year. Those guys breed. I get good every year.
The more east you go, the easier they are. The Sanderson stuff, the 277 stuff.
Yeah. Last year, I pulled a move. I mean, I bred a 9 mile to a Christmas.
Heresy. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're talking about heresy.
Shun this man.
Yeah.
Those are badass, though.
They are.
Really
he's a solid black and orange male, and she's a solid black female. And she's just one of those snakes that you feed her, and she doesn't get any longer. She just keeps putting on fat deposits. And I didn't have a male to breed to her, and I did not like the fat deposit, so I wanted her to burn some energy. So I bred her to the 9 mile, and she produced good eggs. And then this year, bred her to a Christmas, and she produced slugs.
Yeah. Yeah. My Christmas had slugged out 2 years in a row, and I have some fucking killer Christmas Mountain Alterna.
Yeah, they're okay.
I grind my teeth thinking about those animals.
Yeah,
those are
they're
bangers.
pretty special. I need to figure something out in there. There's something not clicking. Anyways, okay, if you breed these snakes, once they're gravid, if they lay good eggs, that's usually a pretty normal calculation. If you breed snakes, you kind of know what to do. I have noticed I incubate differently, so I'll tell you how I incubate in Austin. I think we've kind of mirrored some of this. Churchill Acider, again, we all have our heroes, regardless of how stupid they tell us we are. But no, John has been a huge help to me. I know he's been a big help to you as well, Austin.
Yep.
And Harry now, who knows him.
Oh, yeah.
I incubate my eggs. I do a perlite to water mixture. I'm going to go through my routine, and you could talk about if it's similar. I put 40 grams of I use so I'm going to be technical on this. I use the Food Prep black with clear lid tops. They're kind of like opaque lids. I put 4 holes in the lid. I tape those holes closed. I do 40 grams of perlite to 40 grams of water, and then I put it's like a light diffuser, but it's actually made for aquariums, and that keeps the eggs off the water. I still have a clutch of, or just about a full clutch of Alterna. Alterna will die in the egg if there is too much water in the egg. So you do not want the eggs touching the water.
They also die in the egg if there's not enough water in the egg.
That is also the same thing. So you kind of need to figure out this perfect.
What fun.
You kind of don't want the eggs touching the water, I have found, and that is how I've had the best success with the eggs that I have had the last 2 years. I incubate at 81 degrees exactly. That is me. I have an incubator. And I remove the tape at 45 days. And I have had the last 2 years doing that 90% hatch rate. I had 1 egg not hatched 2 years ago. I keep everything in place using plastic golf tees that I get off of Amazon. I mirror this incubation method with my Vertebralis, which I've had 100% hatch rate with, my Jani, which I now have 100% hatch rate with, which I did not my first couple of years breeding Jani. I believe that the desert species want humidity in their surroundings, but do not want to be wet. I think you see this also with womas in Australia. If anybody here has ever heard, obviously not you guys, but anybody that's listening, we have millions of listeners, but people that have heard about woma eggs.
Australian Kingsnakes?
Australian. God damn it, they're Australian Kingsnakes. It's so amazing that you said that because it's true. Womas and blackheads are literally just king snakes. Please stop calling them.
Or like dry marking, like
They don't even have heat pits, dude. They're king snakes. Right? Just call them kings. They're California king snakes. They're just slightly bigger,
mean,
right?
that's what I'm here
Dry,
for.
dry marcon or cobra, and if anybody tells me otherwise, dry marcon are literally king cobras. Can't tell me otherwise. They just don't have venom that we know about. Anyways, so I do that. I have had almost 100% hatch rate. Like I said, I've only had one egg not hatch. I have some West Alpine, some Paisano Pass incubating that way. I have my 3 Mile West incubating that way. Any other eggs that I would ever get, I will incubate them that way. Austin, and how do you handle your eggs? You're in a much drier climate, though.
So when I was in Bastrop, higher humidity, I did the exact same thing and had good hatch rates.
Yeah.
Last year, I had real bad hatch rates, and I think they were too dry. I had a lot of dead in the eggs, fully developed. You could see the scratch marks where they were trying to get out, and they just couldn't get through this shell.
Oh my God, isn't that just the worst?
The worst. Makes you want to punch a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
So this year I'm trying something different. Nobody modeled me because I'm still figuring out what to do. But same thing as Chris. I think they want it to be really humid, but they don't want it. They're not touching the water. So I use the same light diffuser. I use this exact same setup as Chris. Just this year I did minus the holes. I didn't put holes. So they're completely sealed off.
Yeah.
And then once they reached day 45, I started taking the lid off and fanning them to give them oxygen because that's what Lasseter says to do. Now I keep them in my rack. I've got a couple extra tubs because I don't have an incubator. My room's fairly stable at first, so I like them to go longer term rather than 60 days. I like them to be 70 to 75 because they're usually bigger.
Yeah.
And can last a little longer without eating. And so at first I kind of had the eggs turned around to where they were on the outside of the tub where they were more 75 degrees.
Okay.
And then about halfway through, I kind of switched them and put them back to where they were on the heat tape to where they should be a little warmer. I've got a clutch of Mex that's on day 67 today.
Mm-hmm.
And they look like we're about 5 days away.
Yeah.
And so in the past probably week, I've been opening their tubs and fanning them twice a day. And still, every time I pull the tubs out, there's humidity on the top of it.
Yeah. But you want to see a little bit more of that humidity. Your house is 400% less humid than my house, right?
Right.
Actual math, like 400% less. Like
you probably don't need to even, I mean, this is wrong, but you could probably incubate yours just in the open air at 60% humidity.
With Alterna,
leave them on a shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out here, like I've got some eggs that are bad. I take them out and they're completely shriveled into a crispy shell that has nothing inside of it in 24 hours. Shit.
It's so crazy. Like usually around here, when I hear about eggs going bad, they're like these moldy, soggy, turds. And then to hear about eggs going bad on the other end of that spectrum is just amazing to me. I don't know. It's
people don't talk about that enough, though, Harry. It's a good point. Like, we're all in different demographics. The United States is huge. Regardless of the United States, we have international listeners, right? Maybe we have somebody listening right now in the UK or something, right? What are their?
We're so sorry.
I hope you're not smart because we're the real dumbs.
We represent the whole of our nation.
But Dr. Loftman, who I've talked to repeatedly, and I talk about all the time because he's a great friend of mine, is able to handle species that I'm not, and has such good luck with them. But they're species that I have, and he's at a very similar humidity levels. He's in a humid place in West Virginia, and he still has bad luck with certain species. He's like, I just don't get it. I'm like, maybe it's barometric pressure, maybe it's actual location in the United States. We talk about these
elevation.
These what you don't know that you don't know, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, and how I do something is not going to work for Austin. It's not going to work for Harry. But we can kind of talk about the identifiers as to what you're looking for. I want to see my Alterna eggs look nice and plump. For me, at about day 55, day 60, I want to start seeing some dents form, but not drastic dents. I don't want to see them looking like they're shriveling up. I want to see them looking like they're just starting to cave in certain areas, and maybe not every egg. And then boom, I get a perfect clutch. But if they look like these, what's that?
I've never had a dimple.
Really?
I've never had a dimple in a clutch. Lassiter wants that to happen, and he's like, "Oh, they dimple here and they hatch here, and it just happens."
Yeah.
I've never had a dimple, and I've had eggs that were too dry.
That's crazy.
I probably just suck, but
again, different demographic, different area, different localities. Austin, different localities. It's amazing. So we get these little fucking dirt bags out of the egg. These beautiful, and dude, they're all different and they're all gorgeous. I have a process. Austin, what's your process?
Throw them in the trash can.
Just send them to
your buddies.
Harry, send them to Harry and Chris and tell everybody they're available. They're ready to go. One thing I will say, and before you even say anything, Austin, most serious Alterna herpers and breeders sell their snakes out of the egg. It is almost
common practice.
It is common practice. People have problems with that. You will pay $1,000 for a saltillo out of the egg, and it will have never eaten in its life, regardless of what anybody will ever tell you. And that is what you get.
And selling them out of the egg is one of the best things for them, in my opinion. Look at those 9-milers.
Completely agree.
I did everything I could to keep that clutch alive.
Yep. I can't imagine that getting something eating and then changing everything about their life is a good thing for them.
And then the next year, I send them to you two and like, hey, get ready. They're just going to die. I'd rather them die at your house than my house. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, they eat first night. So as they say, the plane ride makes them eat. Lassiter said put them on the washer and dryer. Let them shake around.
Drive around in the car and take them.
Go drive down a dirt road. That'll make them eat.
Shaken neonate syndrome.
Yeah. I don't know. They just want to eat lizards.
Yeah.
How many hatchlings have you heard of caught in the wild?
None. I have never heard of a hatchling caught in the wild.
I know of a guy that's caught 2.
But you also know 800 herpers, and we know none of them. Yeah.
Not very many. And so I think they're staying underground after they hatch. It's cool. They eat baby lizards. They chill out till they're 2 or 3 and then come out and we find them.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong, but that's my guess.
When we find them and we bring them home, they eat frozen thawed mice almost always.
They're like, thank God, this is delicious.
Almost
I'm so sick of lizards.
100% of the time, a wild-caught snake will eat a frozen thawed mice and be the happiest.
Within days of you catching it, they will eat frozen thawed mice. It's
same night.
Yeah, same night. You could.
They know a good thing when they see it.
You could feed it
calorically
that night. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, wait a second. You're giving me shelter and food? This will work.
They look to the left and like, oh my God, is that water?
Like next thing you tell me, you're gonna get me laid.
Do I smell a woman?
Yeah.
Is that a pheromone?
Yeah.
I'm fucked up. Yeah, it's kind of amazing when these animals are found in the wild, how ready they are to eat. I've heard of people feeding them off tongues. I have heard stories of people, hey, this one only eats live. Or, this one doesn't like wet mice. You can't feed it a wet mouse, right? I've heard that, but I've never heard of one that did eat out of the wild.
I got 3 wild-caught pandils this year. I didn't catch them, obviously. But other people did. And first time I ever offer them food, they're like, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Conversely, a good solid 40% of all of the babies just want to enter the spirit world immediately upon coming out of the egg.
What percent did you say?
I said 40. I'm probably that's by small. No,
80.
I've had good luck then.
I have never. Okay, so I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on this. I have never had an Alterna not eat. I've never had one not eat.
It might be some weird stuff, but
well, also in my history of having Alterna, I have never force fed one. I've never given one a tail. I believe that kicks off their metabolism. It gets them in the mode of wanting to eat, and you need to be giving them a tail every 3 or 4 days because there's no nutrients in that tail.
I've killed stuff with tails.
Yeah. Now, I don't mind tailing certain species. There are animals. When I got some Ridley eye out of the egg, some O3 Taniera Ridley eye that didn't want to eat when I got them. I got them out of the egg, and I didn't know what to do, so I chose to take chunked up rat tails. They're a bigger snake, and give them tails for a while until I got them eating pinks. Once I got them eating pinks, turns out the trick to that was holding the goddamn snake and tapping it in the face until it grabbed the mouse and then just ate it, and figured those out. I've bred O3 Taniera and have had similar results. They don't really want to eat live or mice, but if you tap them on the nose while you're holding them, they bite it and they just kind of stay with it regardless.
Does that female hog that I gave you still do that? Or will she eat in the tub?
So we're tangenting onto this snake. Austin told me that this snake will only eat if you hold it in your hands, and this is the calmest hog nose on the planet. It may hiss a little bit, but you hold it in your hand. You take a frozen thawed mouse and you put it in it, like right next to its mouth, and it just starts eating. And I said, Austin, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I got the snake in.
And so anyway, I'm doing that.
So she just came out of brumation, and I don't think she'd eaten yet. I think she had just come out of brumation.
No, as soon as she came out, I sent her.
Yeah, you sent her. In fact, you did. Yeah, that's right. You were waiting to send her to me. So I was like, all right. So I was going through feeding, boom, 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 boom. The little boy, he eats anything and everything, and I threw a mouse in there, and she didn't eat it. But I noticed when I threw the mouse in there, she went up and smelled it. Okay, so she knows what food is. She's not, this snake's been in captivity since you've been married. You got a kid, so 4 years, 5 years. Yeah, 4 years. Okay, it doesn't eat. Here's my little hot ticket. Pulled out a rat pup. Rat pups are the number one thing. Okay, boom. Thawed out a rat pup, went through and gave her a rat pup. Boom, boom, boom. Went through, checked him a couple hours later, didn't eat it. All right, okay, weird. So I was like, hey, I went to the store. I got an annulata that only eats live. So I was like, I'll get a live mouse. Throw it in there. Goddamn. Oh, no, it was rat pups again. Threw a live rat pup in there. A couple hours later, went back. Annulata ate 2 of them. Went back to her. She hadn't eaten. I was like, all right. Okay,
he's trying so hard to keep from doing the
thing.
It's
been a couple weeks of this, and I was like, I'm going to do the thing. So I picked this stupid snake up. I have my frozen thawed mouse in my hand, and I put it within centimeters of her mouth, and she just slowly starts up as calmly as possible. The second it's in her mouth, you set her down and she's eating.
Yep.
I was like, all right, okay, this was just like a one-time deal. Let's wait 3 or 4. So about 4 days later, she needed to eat. She needed to put weight on. About 4 days later, I was like, all right, boom, quick frozen thaw, and I barely opened the tub. Boom, right there, right in front of her. A couple hours later, come back, mouse is fucking sitting there. And I'm like, all right. And she's like within 3 inches of this mouse, dude. And she's like looking at it. She just goes up, she puts her little tongue out. I pick this stupid snake up.
She'll go set her head on it sometimes and just not eat it.
Yeah. And I was like, there's no way. I hold the snake in my hand.
Inadvertently.
And I pick up the stupid frozen thawed mouse and I put it right in front of her and she instantly eats it.
And so calmly. Just opens her mouth like a lady.
Yeah. Just
takes
slowly
it.
Up.
Yeah.
And I was like, they shouldn't exist, Austin. They shouldn't be on this planet. They don't deserve life, right?
Yeah.
That's stupid snake. That's stupid. Anyways, okay, doesn't matter. Back on Alterna. Okay, baby Alterna for me. I have never had an Alterna not eat. I have had Alterna hatch and exist in my room. Now, I don't put my babies on heat at all. They are only in ambient. My babies are set up in a 2.5 quart tub with holes on it, a little bit of aspen, a water bowl, and I put a paper towel in there. That's a little trick I got from Rob Stone. They like that flat kind of hide area. Take it. I'll run with it. It's been working for me. Usually what I do is I put the mouse slightly under the paper towel. It's been working great. Little fucking note for everybody listening. Those brown napkins are gangster. I use those brown napkins for years. I actually ran out of brown napkins last year, so I've been using paper towels. I have brown napkins for this year.
And toilet paper rolls.
I flatten toilet paper rolls. Like I flatten them with my finger, like crease them, and Because
And
it gives them
sometimes
like
I'll
that little,
fold up one end of it.
or just like ball
Yeah.
them up in my hand and put them in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They like
Okay.
that kind of cramp thing. So I've never had to tail an Alterna ever. Never, never, never. I just don't do it. I have had Alterna go to brumation and come out and still not want to eat. Usually they'll eat after brumation, but I have never had to have one go beyond that. Usually they'll start eating after brumation, but I never want to tail them. I never want to force feed them. We know people, Austin, you know who I'm talking about, that will pump them full of like turkey baby food and stuff. I don't think that's the answer. I
So
think you need.
I think that's the reason I couldn't get mine to work out, and I think that's why they died. That 9-mile clutch, because most clutches I get them to eat. You do all the tricks, and there's just been one clutch that still haunts me.
Yeah.
And that's what I did was I pumped them with what's that reptile stuff, or for birds?
Perfect prey.
No, carnivore care.
Carnivore care, yeah.
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 Wait, what am I talking about?
And they just went instantly downhill, and I
Yeah.
had to keep pumping them every like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I just eventually they got to a size where I couldn't give them enough food.
Mm-mm.
And there's other guys who do it, and they do great with baby food. And
Dude,
I
you have to constantly be.
I don't think I'm
constantly
ever.
doing it.
I don't think I'm ever going to do that again.
Mm-mm.
Try to force feed or tube feed. I don't have a plan to do that anymore. I'm going to let them ride it out to brumation if that's what they want to do. Actually, what I'm going to do is sell them out of the egg. So somebody else.
You know, some of the more obscure localities, and like Huecos or even a lot of Christmas mountains. Some people do produce Christmas mountains and get them feeding black apps. Anybody breeding Olympia Canyon stuff, Davis Mountain stuff, you're not buying that snake eating.
And if you are, you're paying a lot of money for it.
I think I saw somebody recently post a pair of Madera Canyons, and the pair was, we talked about it, I think they were $2,000.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you're getting these obscure localities actually eating, right? They're
Yeah.
going to establish them. So here's my rundown. So I my Alterna hatch, I keep everything in the incubator. I put them in a separate tub with a little bit of damp sphagnum moss in like a big deli. I keep them in the incubator with the water bowl until they shed, right? Like just keep them all together, let them shed, let them do their thing. I like to keep them at the kind of that higher temperature. They shed a little faster. I individually set them all up, and then I wait about 2 weeks. I don't immediately. Some people are like, "Oh, start feeding them." No, let them sit. Let them just get.
I go ahead and offer. Like when I get stuff out of the egg, I'm like, "Yep, we're gonna see." I can't stand it.
Do they ever eat?
Well, when they come from you, they do.
Yeah.
Well, those
One did.
I had. I think I let them go through the first shed, and it had been a couple of weeks before I sent them to you, so they were ready.
Well, no, first shed, yeah, but like I meant like as far as okay, yeah, well maybe not those. I bought a couple at Daytona. My first couple had their first shed the day I got home from Daytona, and I was
That's
like,
right.
"You're getting pinkies." And,
Yeah,
and
I bet
there's nothing.
Did they eat?
No.
There's nothing wrong with trying. There's nothing wrong with trying. Now I will say
it's data. No data is still data.
Yeah.
A no is still a no, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong
That's
with that.
what I meant.
So my 3 miles and and a couple of the other, I've had a few out of the egg. Actually, I had quite a few out of the egg before they shed because I wanted some special localities. I buy them before they shed, right? Like it's just how you get them sometimes.
Mhm.
And so I set them up. I let them go. I let them sit. Let them get happy where they're at. Don't bug them. Don't even add water unless it's completely empty. Make sure they've pooped once or twice because they will poop a couple times, right? They have ovum that they absorb.
You don't put water in?
Only if they're like out of water, right? Like, but if it's getting a little low, But also, Austin, my water bowls will last 3 weeks.
Yeah,
it's a bit different.
This is what I use for hatchlings. Sunny D.
Okay, yeah, nice. I use 1.5 ounce deli cups.
I fill them up every day.
See, but yeah, yours runs out of water.
Yes, I give them big old things like that because I want them to be able to get in them.
So this is
Sterilite guys or Glad things. Yeah,
this is hatchling straight out of the egg.
Hatchling straight out of the egg. I give them a big water bowl. Yeah.
Really?
Now, but if I fill that water bowl up,
sorry.
Oh no, if I fill that water bowl up I usually do Saturdays and Sundays. The next weekend, it's still almost full, right? Like I don't lose any water. In fact, it may be more full, right? I don't even know.
So these last about 6 days.
Holy cow, that would last
I
6
cannot
months.
imagine the air sucking that much moisture out of anything around here. Like I would have nosebleeds daily. I was gonna say
I do have nosebleeds daily.
I was gonna say my logic for using these larger water bowls, because I don't have to worry about it evaporating like in front of me like you do, but some of these babies are so small that even a pinky's a gigantic meal for one. And I know a lot of species of snakes like to get in water after they eat just because of the buoyancy of it. I feel like it helps, it helps them as far as like the weight distribution and stuff. And that's
even adults get in their water bowls after.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's kept me from going smaller, even though I probably could stand to.
So what do y'all keep them in as soon as they're hatched?
So for me, the second they hatch, I put them in a 6-inch deli cup full of sphagnum moss with a water bowl in there, and I just leave them in the incubator until they shed. I don't let anything go before it sheds. That's just me.
Neither do I.
And then I move them to 2.5 ounce Sterilite tubs.
Big deli. Okay.
This isn't a big one.
No, it's a small. It's a 4.5 inch. He has time.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I put them in with those little bottle caps.
Okay.
Trying to keep them in the dark.
Keep them dark. Keep them dark is a good one. But so what I do for a feeding regimen is after that kind of 2 weeks post shed, I'll give everybody gets a pinky. And I think this is one of the places where people mess up. Okay, they don't take the pinky. I have had a couple take pinkies. It almost never happens. But I go through, I pull all the pinkies a couple hours later. Because usually if they're going to eat, they're going to eat, right? Like they're going to eat within the first hour. Because I feed at night.
Yeah, I do overnight because I've had some come back and get it after it's like.
I have a lot.
They probably shouldn't.
Really? You have some that like will go back even.
Yeah, absolutely. Even some like grown or partially grown stuff is like I let it marinate, and it's so weird. It's gross, and I don't like doing it past a certain point, obviously. But like just like overnight. But like I've checked in the morning and been like, you bastard. And then like come back at lunch to pull pinkies out and then be gone. And I'm like, I mean, but I mean, these things also will scavenge. So like all snakes will, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I think so also. Yeah.
That's my cutoff. But like, yeah, I mean,
maybe I need to give them a little bit more time. Austin, if you leave a pinky overnight, is it beef jerky the next day?
No.
Oh, so that's a good point.
With the water in there, and I don't let the paper towel get dry. So I put water on the paper towel so it's damp in there. And so it's a pretty humid environment.
Oh, wait, but that's before they shed.
Even after.
Oh, you still keep them a little bit more humid.
Okay. Yeah.
See, so I do a pinky, but see the thing is, I and again, like what I'm saying, where I think people mess up is people will immediately the next day try a different food item. I don't. I wait 3 or 4 days, and then I'll try
at least 3 or 4 days.
And then I go
next time I'm feeding.
Yeah, I go boiled pink next. That's my second go-to. I usually have a little bit more luck with boiled pinks, but
boiled is
3 miles.
Boiled is my most successful.
Bro, my 3 miles they love boiled pinks. But
boiled is easy, man. Boiled is the easiest thing in the world. Like, if that's all it is, then sweet.
Throw a glass in the microwave, let it boil, and drop some pinkies in it.
My wife gave me a pot. Because she didn't trust me to not use any of hers.
I have a feeling we all boil differently. This is how I boil. I thaw the pinkies out. They're completely thawed. I take a coffee cup that I have just for this. I fill it with water. I put it in the microwave for 2 to 3 minutes so it's popping and bubbling. I take it out, and then I take the pinkies on tongs and hold them in for about 7 to 10 seconds. And then I immediately take them out and put them in cool water so that they're not hot. And then I take them and bit more particular than most, and then I completely dry them out, right? So I put them on a paper towel, I completely dry them out, so now they have the smell, they're boiled, and then so I've had very good luck with that. Now, one thing I will say before I boil anything is I wash the pink with Dawn dish soap. I always wash my pinks.
I never do that.
You never.
I can't wait for this bottle sterilizer to be open game.
You need to
be great.
try washing your pinks, dude. I wash my pinks
Well,
before I scent.
like on the super hard ones, I'll try that.
Mhm.
But I don't even boil mine until they refuse regular frozen thawed like 4 or 5 times.
Oh, you keep trying. So you keep trying frozen thawed.
Oh yeah.
See, everybody does different. That's my second. Like if you immediately refuse frozen thawed, your next one's going to be boiled.
I might go twice with regular frozen thawed, but then it's boiled a couple of times, and then I start cutting up
I
lizards.
really grasp for that frozen thawed before I try anything else.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like a 40-yard walk to my kitchen. That's too far.
So
I put mine in a shot glass. I get a shot glass, fill it with water, microwave it, and then I use frozen pinks. I don't thaw them, and just drop the frozen ones in there.
I've heard of people doing that. Yeah.
As soon as they float, I dump them into cold water, take them out, put them on a paper towel.
Huh, okay.
Because every time I've tried like with thawed ones, they explode. They pop.
Oh, it's because they were in there too long. You got to hold them on the tongs.
I do about 5 seconds in boiling
You're
water
there.
on tongs, and then just
put 'em
let
in
them
cool
cool
water.
down.
Yeah.
But then I
just
feel
let
like I
them
don't
air
get the
cool.
full boiled effect.
That's
Well, if they're gray, if they look
well,
horrible and gray, then you did it right.
they're chewy too.
Yeah.
If you ever try it, they really
It's like a
if you boil a pink like we're talking about and then don't put it in cool water and just set it on the table, it'll fucking explode.
Yeah.
So
never done that.
and
So
then we go to
I have
scented.
had some snakes like the popped ones though. Like
Yeah.
every now and then I'll just have like an old freezer burn pinky that gets thrown in and it'll pop the gut a little bit and I'll throw it in and like the snake will want that one.
Why
Braining
wouldn't they?
works,
These little freaks.
Braining.
splitting the gut open works.
My favorite is lizard hats. I cut so many lizard hats.
Dude,
I
I
should
have
become a designer.
never done a lizard hat.
What?
I've heard that it works. No, I do. So okay, let's talk about lizards. So I have 4 different tinctures, which is I take a part of the lizard, I put it in water, I freeze it, I thaw it out, I muddle it, and I back in the freezer. So I have these little deli cups full of like lizard parts that I make tinctures out of, and so I have Scalopus, I have Coleonyx brevis, I have the brown skinks, and then I
Crazy
have
person.
No, definitely not crazy person. And then I do house gecko, and then I have a couple of the repti scents that I've tried. Because once I get to scenting, I know that this is going to be a process, right? Like we are now going to be going through different. Also, I don't just have these lizards in my backyard.
Yeah, if you get to scents, you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, like you're
If
gonna
they
start
don't want
trying
boiled or brained, you're like, oh boy. Well, here we go. Here's phase 2 of the operation. Is
Go to lizard hats. I'm telling you.
So, but you have them in your
Mediterranean
backyard.
geckos are wonderful around here, and I just thaw them next to one of those and use that. That's all I do. I literally just like thaw them on top of a medgec, and
yeah. Before I lived here, I used Mediterranean geckos all the time.
Yeah, still had good luck.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not as good. I mean, I've got Scalopus now, and obviously I live here, so I've got the Scalopus that they want. And I don't take any from the wild because I don't really enjoy doing that. But it seems like my neighbor's cat and Pneumodophorus work too, which are not. I don't know what the hipster name is for them now. The new taxonomy, race runners.
Yeah.
interesting point.
They work
like
too.
Eastern. They don't like my Scalopus. I have really crap luck with Eastern fence lizards.
They don't like horn lizards because I found one of those DOR and tried it. They don't like alligator lizards. Found one of those DOR and tried it. But race runners and Scalopus work.
Yeah.
And then
The
John
thing is, though,
makes his lizard soup.
the slurry.
Yeah.
I've got a little bullet blender around here somewhere that my wife got me just preemptively, and I never had to actually had to do it, but it's here.
The lizard soup is really popular. People they'll take an anole, a house gecko, a Scalopus, a brown skink, or a ground
Slap
skink,
chop it.
and a brevis or whatever. Dude, brevis, bro. You know what I was doing? So I was breeding brevis, and Austin, you sent me a brevis. I was taking my adults. It sounds terrible, but I was popping their tails off, and you'll keep feeding the adults, and then like they grow their tail back, and you get their tail off, and then you keep feeding them, and they grow their tail back.
Farming tails, man.
And that's what I was making my tinctures out of, right? That's what I was making my little scent cups out of. And dude, the brevis, oh my god, they go batshit for brevis. It's
I found a DOR brevis, and I tried that with that 9-mile clutch. Most of everything I have never has to go past just lizard hats. Boiled with a lizard hat.
Boiled with a lizard hat, that's next level.
Dude, it
That's
works.
another thing. You have all these different things that could work, and then you have combinations of all these different things that might be what work.
And then you have snakes that want to be brumated.
Starts to sound like a magic spell.
Then there's snakes
dirt from West Texas, testicles of a newt. Next thing you know, like three weird ingredients from outside.
Yeah, and then there's snakes that just want to be shipped.
And then some of them just want to enter the spirit world.
Yeah,
that's a thing as well. That's a very real thing.
I think that it probably happens in the wild too. And the reason we catch snakes that will eat frozen thawed off the first night they're caught is because they're the ones that ate when they were babies.
Yeah.
The other ones didn't make it, and we just don't ever see those.
They probably got
that's a guess. It's a wild
eaten by some terrifying millipede out in the middle of the damn desert.
Freaking ringtails. Ringtails suck. There's been multiple times where I've looked on the top of a cut and there's a ringtail running away with a snake. Makes me want to hike with a shotgun.
But
But
why do we like these things again?
Because they're the best. Nothing good in life comes easy, Harry. I'm sure we could find examples of.
Yes, we could.
Something, but where did Chris go?
I don't know. I don't know where he went. This pee break brought to you by BlackBox Cages. When Chris pees himself, it's hysterical. When your snake pees himself, it's significantly less so. Unless your cage is made out of the highest quality of PVC, then it's okay. BlackBox Cages. Enter code THN24 at checkout for something.
Oh, Justin wants to know about Bairds.
Yeah. Do you run a lot? I don't even really know a whole lot about Bairds other than they're awesome and Justin likes them.
Dude, they're sweet.
You run into a lot of them?
Oh yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
Superhero landing.
Bairds.
Yeah.
There we go.
Bairds.
Bairds.
Man, so they're variable. Not super variable, but they are. The ones in the Davis Mountains look like they're from the Davis Mountains. They're still freaking awesome. Some of the coolest ontogenetic change go from completely patterned babies to almost patternless adults. Some of the best ones I've ever found have been on 277, just super light gray. And then that Mexican stuff is crazy.
Dude, the Mexican bear dye. How do we get to bear dye? I step aside.
I don't understand how that's the same thing either. I don't, from like an outsider's perspective.
In the world of bear dye, if there was a different species, it would be the Nuevo Leon stuff. It's so different. I mean, Austin saw mine this past weekend.
Nuts. I've never caught or seen anything from Texas that looks remotely close. If I found that snake in the wild, I don't even know if I'd have guessed bear dye.
The Nuevo Leon is like 60 to 100 miles south of 277. Right? Now, it is a different mountain range. It's totally different. There's the Rio Grande Valley that it goes through. It starts getting to the north side of the central Mexican plateau. I get it. It's a totally different island. But, oh, my God, it's so shockingly different.
Look at the
Did
Franklin.
Justin just jump in to holler Bairds?
He did, and then dipped.
Yeah. That's a pimp move. Okay.
Look at the Franklins over in El Paso versus the Wacos.
Yeah.
You can see them from each other.
Look at.
That's where the split between Cloudbri and Lepidus are.
Yeah.
And there's no Alterna in the Franklins.
Yeah.
That's
right.
crazy.
Also, look at the bear dye from Olympia and look at the bear dye from 277. These are two totally different looking snakes. Bear dye have a ton of variability. Nobody's ever spent the time to really investigate that. It's breeding locality bear dye. We have our 277 metallic rats. We have our Nuevo Leon stuff. Justin has Olympia, a bear dye that I caught. But they're cool, man. They're badass snakes.
Yeah. Of the rat snakes, they are the best in America. And
Yeah,
will
I
die on
absolutely disagree, and I will tell
You're
you
wrong.
why you're wrong, brother. Because
Well,
corn snakes
well,
and emoryi and thorn scrubs
Bogart-
all exist. Those are all obsolete.
Bogertophus is number 1, bear dye number 2. Everything else is like
Stenocolus
I
is
don't
number
have
one.
the I don't have the suboc infatuation like everybody else. I don't get it. I'm also a long way from them.
You know,
You haven't ever found one.
And we've
Subocs
got
are
like
cool.
6.5 foot long gray rats here that are awesome. So
yeah. So we got
It's a different
Bogertophus.
genus.
Yeah,
I know it's the wrong genus.
they're not rat snakes.
Yeah, they're not. Panthrophis is rat snake.
Stenocolus, man. Like, you've seen
Yeah.
those things, right? Those
Yeah.
are
Oh yeah. Oh
those
yeah.
are
Yeah.
insane. Okay. So
At least
last
they
thing we're
actually
gonna
look
talk
like rat snakes. Okay.
about, there are morphs in Alterna, and this is an offshoot of
Are
corn
there?
stars, and we talk about
There's-
morphs a lot.
There's abominations in Alterna.
There's also
Is what you meant to
abominations in
say.
Alterna.
There are blips.
I am going to start this by saying, first and foremost, there are no albino pure Alterna out there, period.
I
They
will
are,
flip every table in the room with anybody who says there is.
yeah, they are all hybrids. They are all almost specifically lineage-wise proven to be hybrids. No, there is not some magical human that bred two leucistics together and magically got albinos, albino leucistic, hypoleucistic,
Two of
amyleucistic.
Not just one in a clutch, but you're gonna pop out 2 random albinos.
Yeah.
No, that
Sounds like a bunch of hater talk to me.
those genetics don't work.
Yeah. When you pop out an albino in a clutch randomly, you don't get multiple and you don't produce it again the next year, right?
No.
An albino, a random mutation, a random recessive mutation in a species is possible. It does happen, but you don't get it over and over and over again. My Jani have been breeding and they have produced a couple stippled, striped, aberrant animals. That is not a recessive mutation. It is something that's going on with the line breeding of those animals that are causing something to happen in their genetics. If it is a repeatable thing from the original parents that produced the original striped animal, there's something going on, right? That's not how albinism
The parents
works,
are het.
right?
They have to be heterozygous.
If they're heterozygous, I'd get more than 2 over 4 years of breeding them.
No, I mean the albino ones.
Oh, but yes, the only way to get albinos in multitudes, and it has happened multiple years, and I'm not saying who it is, I know who it is. The only way for that to have happened is that parents had to have been het albino. The only way for an alternative to be het albino is to have come from an albino somewhere. The only Mexicana species that albino has been found in is Ruth Veni, and we know that in Europe, where these things happen, this is exactly where they were hatched, was overseas, that all they do is hybridize these species to get different phenotypes because they have such a small gene pool. Now, deep breath.
Kind of like what we do with carpets here.
Kind of like what we do with carpets here. Now, there are pure strains of carpets and there are pure strains of
Yes.
Alterna, and there are
Of course.
there are Mexicana, there are Ruth Veni, and there are I'm forgetting one, Leonis in
That might not have been the
overseas in
best
Europe.
comparison. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm gonna have to like check my brake lines on my truck in the morning, but
But no, Harry, you're right. Like, that's what happens with carpets here. It's where a lot of the genes were shared. There's a reason why we have super high caramel, albino, jaguar, coastals. My brother in Christ, that's not how that works, right? Like, albinos came from Darwin's, jaguars came from jungles, everything else came from coastals. Like, chill out. We're not in Australia. We haven't had new blood in 40 years. You need to pump the brakes. Anyways, not talking about carpets. Hey, yo, sweet shirt, Uwambawi Reptiles. It's my dog, Billy Hunt.
Uba Mommy
Uba Bombi. So,
is an
in
abomination.
Alterna, we do have morphs. So there are some line bred and phenotypic morphs, and there are some actual recessive morphs. We'll talk about the line bred and kind of phenotypic. One of those is there is actually a striped line of Alterna. It's the coffee line. This was built up and worked on in the late 90s into the 2000s. I don't have a picture on hand right now, but they are some of the most amazing looking Alterna on the planet. It popped up in somebody's collection. They bred for it, and they have fully striped Alterna.
And it's a reverse stripe, right?
It's a reverse stripe.
It's a ground color stripe that goes down the back.
It is.
And they are sweet.
They're disgustingly amazing. I think, as far as I know, there is one left. I don't know if
I saw
anybody
one
that
at
has
a show 2 or 3 years ago,
it.
and I should have bought it.
Yeah, you didn't call me up, dog.
It's like $300, and
you should.
I
I
didn't buy it.
got $300. Right?
I know.
Anyways, there's another phenotypic morph that people are bred for, which is the long blotch. If Jason Nelson has been working on that line for a long time, and so what that is the actual blotches, the orange on the Alterna. They have bred for a long nuptial, kind of like a stripe, but it's more of like an overage of orange. And they're
like an
pretty
extended
amazing.
band sort of thing, like a elongation of the band. Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are not localities.
None of these are localities.
At this point, no, probably. Yeah.
Which is still sweet. They've got their place.
Yeah, they're really cool, and there's nothing wrong with non-locality Alterna. As long as if you want Alterna, get a non-locality Alterna.
You choose your level of involvement, man.
Yeah, have your
just
Alterna.
Disclose it.
Yeah, but never tell somebody,
exactly.
Oh, I think this is a Sanderson animal. Oh, I think this is a West.
Because it's not.
It's not, right? Like the second it's non-locality, the second we can't pinpoint the locality it's from, and this little
That does not diminish the animal at all. It
does not.
Worth noting is all.
It also doesn't devalue the animal, right? Which is kind of funny. Like people are like, oh well, it won't be worth as much. That's not how it works. Like, bro, you don't have saltillos, you don't have BSRs. Like you're getting the same amount of money for your steak.
You're probably going to get more money if you call it a generic rather than calling it a Langtree.
Hell, if it's pretty, you're just going to get more money, right? Like it's
you're not wrong.
Then there's another value that we have that popped up in the Black Gap locality, but it's also been found in River Roads. It's also been found in Christmas Mountains, and that's the Chaos. This was originally bred by Tim Gebhardt, and I believe he started it in his River Roads. It may have been Black Gaps, but we call it Chaos. Chaos is a fusion of pattern and stippling. I have a Chaos animal. And what Chaos is, it's very similar to the Granite gene in Mex-Mex, and I wish they would have called it Granite. Of course, I had nothing to do with the naming, but the Chaos gene in Alterna is a diffusion and stippling on the nuptial down to about the first third of the snake, and they can be line bred to Austin. Make more noise, my dog. Right, like hit the mute button.
Oh, my bad. I'm trying to find one.
I think he's fishing something out.
Here,
man.
Hit mute real quick and grab one.
I don't know where he's at.
You also don't know where the mute button is, ladies and
gentlemen. The snake
gentlemen.
or the mute button? It's
Wait
fine.
a second.
He's muted forever. No, don't. I'm not waiting.
Hear you.
Anyways, so the Chaos line creates this beautiful diffusion. They are gorgeous animals. They lose a lot of their orange. And through line breeding, Chaos to Chaos, you will get like fully kind of stippled, patternless, almost looking animals. There are other.
So it does act
traits.
very similarly to Granite. Sorry to interrupt.
It acts exactly like Granite.
Okay.
With the exception, Granite is kind of the entire snake. And here, Austin's showing us a Chaos animal.
Just got this one from Mike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So you see how this heavy stippling and kind of diffusion starts, and that can be 20 times that, right? It can go so much further to the point to where the animal is just like gray and black speckles and white and has almost no orange in it at all. Again, this is like a Tim Gebhardt had worked on this for years. They're really beautiful, kind of special animals. And it doesn't pop up too much where people say, hey, I have a Chaos line animal, but it's kind of interesting because you'll see animals that come wild that breed and produce snakes that look like that. And it's kind of like, that's like Chaos, right? Like that's Chaos gene.
How does that behave? Have you said already?
It's phenotypic, right? If you took a Chaos animal and bred it in here, this is a pretty heavy example, and I'm gonna have to show it on my phone. but you can kind of see that right there.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is a more extreme example. Chaos. So you can kind of see that a lot of the oranges come out. This is one of the animals I have. This animal actually sent to me by Ross Stone. But this black cap will hopefully be breeding in about 1.5 to 2 years. But yeah, look, here's another one that Austin has. Another great example.
This one's an F1.
We call it the chaos gene. Yeah, see, it could be in an F1. And that's
Look at
it's
that.
that
That's
busy
sweet.
pattern. It's simple to tell. That's really cool, Austin. That's the same. What's the locality on that one?
River Road, Big Hill.
You get a lot of. Yeah, I have a Chaos River Road as well. So
That's where most of the
Road,
chaos
I have a
gene came from.
Yeah, I have a Chaos Christmas Mountain, a Chaos Black Gap, but it's anything that's in that kind of pocket of Big Bend, right? Like anything that's down there. And this probably happens in the wild as well, right? Like found in the wild that look like that. Anyway, so that's Chaos Gene. The Chaos Gene is also speculative. A lot of people will sell you an animal locality F1 before they tell you it's a F1 Chaos, right? Alterna breeders don't like sit here and pump up the Chaos name. I'm not sitting here trying to sell you Chaos Alterna. I'm trying to sell you F1 Black Apps, right? Or F2 Black Apps or something. And so interesting. There are some recessive morphs in Alterna that are pretty cool. I think they're cool. We're having examples. They're pretty hard to come by. Not a lot of people are working with them. Kind of first, and I don't remember where it came from. And that's something I wish I would have probably looked up before this episode. But there is a leucistic gray banded kingsnake. It is a solid white banded kingsnake, as you would absolutely assume. But it was genetic sheds that it is 100% gray band. Wherever that animal did derive from, they are just pure white leucistic gray band.
Supposedly.
I only know of 1 or 2 people that work with them anymore. So no, it was proved through sheds. Somebody had a DNA example ran. I guess the only other leucistic animal that it could have been, which was Holbrook eye, I think was the closest relative, and it didn't share.
I thought the only thing like that in Holbrook eye was the localized leucism, like the white wall or the white side. I didn't know.
White wall, yeah. Which
it's a localized
as
leucism, I
leucistic,
guess.
Has a visual head, yeah. Which leucistic works weird, right? It
Oh
depending
yeah,
on
apparently.
The animal, a leucistic corn snake.
By my reckoning.
You do get the typical leucism where the eyes are a little bit more bulgy, right? And eyes develop at the same time. The egg are close to the same time. And when pigment is not developing, for some reason, the eye caps don't develop the same. And also, a lot of other reptiles, this can be seen through lizards, this can be seen through pythons, this can be seen through many species of snake. Visual head. So a het leucistic is a hypotype.
The line bred chaos stuff from River Road also does that with the eyes. They've kind of got bigger, bulgier eyes. They've got a nose that kind of turns down a little, like puppy dog nose or something.
Yeah, kind of has a little bit bulgier.
Yeah, you can tell it's line bred.
And yeah, you can kind of tell it's a little bit line bred. Yeah, with Alterna, leucistic Alterna, they're like kind of like Alterna are already kind of stupid looking, like they have these big ass bug eyes. The leucistics have a little bit more, and visual leucistics. Yeah. It is very uncommon to come across leucistic Alterna. Then there's 2 other morphs that were found. Now, het leucistic is a hypotype, right? Like you can have a visual het leucistic, jaguar carpets. Just to talk about carpet pythons again, are visual het leucistic. Lily white crested geckos are visual het leucistic. They have fatal. They're fatal genes. Whiteout African fat tails are visual het leucistic. When you breed together, you get leucistic, but it's a fatal gene. In a lot of species, leucistic is a fatal gene. Rusty rat snakes, if you want to talk about obsoleta, rusty rat snakes are visual het leucistic, right? There's a lot going on there with this stuff. Now, does that make it incomplete dominant? Yes. So we would say that it's not a recessive gene; it's an incomplete dominant gene. But there are also hypos and aneries that popped up specifically in the black gap line. I don't remember who originally produced them, but there is a visual hypo and a visual anery that is locality from black gap. The ghosts. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure one of our buddies caught a hypo. I'm not
There
saying
are
where.
there are 2 other localities where people have caught hypos.
Yep.
And one of them has already been proven out to be a recessive hypo gene.
And he's still working on
where.
I think he's got he's got F1s. I think he still needs to breed them back. But it looks hypo.
Bro, it is hypo as hypo can be. Those are both Eastern range, right?
I'd be excited to see that. I'm not sure that I've seen what you're talking about. Maybe
we'll have
off
to
air.
pull up a picture for you at some point. Yeah, they're badass. But there's
Yeah.
2 hypo genes floating around that are for sure hypo. Now, back on the black app hypos, the hypo and the anery were found at different times, but in black app locality animals. They were put together. There are ghosts. Yes, the ghosts look exactly as badass as you think they are. There have been some people that have, because black app can produce some Blair's type animals. They're not Blair's because they still have alternates. But black gap can produce
They have that high
Blair's
orange
type animal. They have that high orange. They'll produce a Blair's type animal, and they took those Blair's type animals and bred them into the aneries and the hypos, and there have been some ghosts. Is that one? Yeah, that's one of the ones that was.
It's not really focused. That's a wild caught.
That's a wild caught hypo. Yeah. I mean,
I can see myself in the camera of your phone, and it's distracting. God, I'm good looking. Pretty snake too.
So in the world of Alterna, there are morphs out there. If not, I kind of hate it because they don't get a lot of appreciation. I know for a fact that if I came across just willy-nilly some anery or some ghost black apps that were still true locality, I probably need to get them because the ghost black apps they're insane. They're insane. But yeah, Austin, is there anything on that you would say that has kind of popped out or anything of note? Because I know there's things caught in the wild that are pretty wild.
No, I mean, I'm not super big on the morphs. I think there's enough variability in the natural stuff. That's why I don't have any leucistics or hypos or anything like that. If that one that I just showed a picture of proves out, I'll be getting babies of it because I know the guy who caught it. Everything else I think was all Dan Johnson. Back in the
I think it was all Dan Johnson. I will. There you go. Here, then I can throw this picture to Justin. Justin is still in the background helping us with pictures. Here is a ghost.
The crazy washing out, the white tipping of that is really cool.
That's the possible hypo wild caught.
Yeah.
I
mean, it looks hypo.
Undisclosed locality.
That is so badass.
Yeah.
That's a really cool snake. It's really deep.
Could you imagine finding that thing? Like you just quit alternating after that.
I had to change my underwear after I found my normal ass Alterna on Limpia.
Now, we're talking about how a lot of the predators don't see the orange, but that level of contrast, you got to really hand it to an animal like that's to have survived long enough to get any size to it with that level of contrast, and with that white tipping like that.
Yeah, like those black gaps do that too with the white.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So, anybody that's a big morph fan and that maybe just listen to this podcast because they like king snakes and they want to maybe talk about different kinds of king snakes. There are morphs out there. I wish a few more people worked with them. We all have seen the albino.
We got some albinos coming in tomorrow. What are you talking about?
There are people that sell known hybrid albinos. I think Justin's pulling up a picture of the ghost. I think this is cooler than shit if it pops up. But yeah, like
they are really cool.
They're really pretty. That's the littlest picture ever. But that is the ghost Alterna, and they are really really neat. That's a ghost black cat. So these things do exist. That did have to be bred through multiple generations to get that animal because there was a hypo. There was
you got to make double heads. Yada yada.
You got to make double heads. You got to go through the process. And also double head to double head when Alterna average like 4 to 5 eggs a clutch.
Not
it's
the
a very,
best odds.
yeah. It's like a 1 in 16 chance per egg, right? And you got 5 eggs. Yeah. So and also the ghost Alterna that I've seen that were up for sale are I think $1,400. This is
Yeah.
something you're going to go get on Morph Market for $300 and love it. But I think Alterna is just a great species for anybody to try out. Somebody that wants something a little bit more calm. Austin, what would be your closing notes on Alterna?
Closing notes on Alterna.
Yeah.
They're the best there is.
Yep.
Plain and simple.
Pretty damn cool. Pretty damn
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Hard to find. But if they're easier to find, we probably wouldn't love them as much as we do.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
yeah, that's about it.
It's a good one, man. Yeah.
We've spoke a lot about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold up.
We've gone a little
Never
longer than
enough.
that. It's never enough. Yeah. Smitty's had Alterna. I think he's even bred some with his dad.
Yeah.
Smitty, I asked you earlier, does your father is he getting the bug again? Is that exciting?
He is. He
Oh,
is.
yeah.
He's
Oh, yeah.
retiring, I think, next year, and I think he's already plotting because he's already won Eastern Kings again and some other stuff. So he's slipping back into the. He has an Alterna still. He got one.
Yeah.
I picked one up for him at Daytona last year.
Slipping in the darkness.
And he's going down the rabbit hole again because he's like, find me an Eastern King. I was like, okay.
The reason I have my
I've got him an
wild
Eastern
caught,
King.
the reason I have my wild caught male is because Adrian Corval caught it in 2016, and then Smitty's dad bought 2 F1 females from Adrian Corval and also got the wild caught male. And when I got all of Smitty's dad's Alterna, I got the wild caught male. That's how I got it.
Oh,
That's cool.
small
So-
world.
I brought up Baird's earlier, and then my internet just decided to completely give up.
You're gonna have to listen to the 3 hours of Alterna for the Bears.
Because I figured we'd stop to talk about a real snake for a
He
minute.
said
Oh,
he said
Mom.
they're pretty cool.
They're pretty. They're a good third. Nah, maybe fourth
What?
of West.
What
Texas.
do you, dude? It's got to be Alterna.
This
Lepidus.
podcast is never getting uploaded.
Is Lepidus not your second?
No.
What's your number 2 snake?
Atrox.
Yeah. Milk
What?
snakes. West
Oh.
Salenops.
Salenops.
Not just any old milk snake.
And then
Um,
Lepidus.
Probably then Lepidus. Then Subox.
I don't know what any of these things are.
Then Bear Eye.
I'm a little hurt.
Bear Dye are cool, but they ain't Alterna.
And they're not uncommon.
Actually, they're like the rat snake version of Alterna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do
As babies, I think. You know,
Dude,
like I get Alterna vibes from baby bears.
in the mountains. If somebody tells you they shined a baby bears and didn't think it was an Alterna, they're lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My heart has gone through my butt multiple times looking at a baby bears thinking it was an Alterna.
It's so frustrating for me.
Yeah. you
We
didn't
were
see
out
the Bear
there.
Dye.
I didn't see any. Yeah, we didn't see any. We were walking. We were at Madera and walking back to the car in the middle of the path we were on. I froze because I thought that there was a Baird's in front of me, and it ended up being a patch nose, which was still actually really cool. I think it was freaking.
I'd say
gorgeous.
I'd be stoked about one of those.
That thing was gorgeous, dude. The blues on
From
that
a
thing,
Floridian standpoint.
crazy.
I flipped one in my backyard the other day.
Yeah, those are cool little snakes, dude. But for like a solid 3 seconds in my brain, I was like, oh my god, it's a Baird's, and then I was like, wait a second, no, it's not.
Yeah, Madera's a good place to find beards.
Yeah.
I
found
loved it
one-
up there. I'm with Chris. Like that was a gorgeous place. Like it's weird when we were there was a bunch of termites and stuff flying around, so it was like this very weird
Yeah.
Right after a rain.
surreal. Yeah.
Yep.
Like it was just it was very eerie.
They come out in mass
Do they?
after a rain.
Yeah.
Also,
just
like-
crawl out little bit holes.
We can
Yeah,
wholeheartedly admit, if you go to Madera or Observatory Canyon, first and foremost, you are not going to find an Alterna, right? Like they do exist there, and they have been found, but that is a hard place to find.
I've never found one there. and I've
a lot.
looked a lot.
Well,
I know a
we
lot
were
of
there
people
looking for leps.
Best way to
What
find
the-
an Alterna there is go to look for bears.
I mean, are you seeing a lot of, like, have you come across a lot of bears? Is it,
Oh yeah,
because at one point I remember people were talking about that was like the hardest snake to find in like the country at one point or something ridiculous.
no chance.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen one this year, but I haven't really herped where I usually see them. Haven't been to Madeira once this year.
I found
I
mine
love
on
that whole trip, man.
North of West Texas is just amazing. It's just massive. It's massive. Driving from Alpine to Fort Davis at sunset is one of the best drives you can have. It is.
Yep.
gorgeous.
Especially if it's been getting a little rain and stuff's greening up, it's hard to beat.
Yeah. Well, Austin, you'll I don't know where Harry went. He's probably gone. He does have baby. But Austin, you'll have to come back on to Snakes and Stogies, talk about all the other species you work with and that you herp with.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit even more about the conservation work you do, because you do work with a lot of other things outside of reptiles and more reptiles.
Everything else.
Yeah. I'd love Harry to be here for our goodbyes. Harry, I think we're see if he puts on his headphone. Harry, I think we're getting ready to say our goodbyes.
Nice.
I'm gonna thank our sponsors, BlackBox Cages, Silent Hill Reptiles, and also Fulvius Apparel, which is a sponsor. You know, obviously it's Justin, but it's a major sponsor. Austin, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, best place is probably just my personal Facebook. Either Double Diamond Reptiles. I get notifications on there. I put a lot just on my personal. First name Austin, last name Bohannon.
Yeah.
Either way, that's probably the best. I'm on Instagram, but I've got like
He
2
needs to
posts.
use his Instagram more.
Nothing's
I
about
know he's
snakes.
got some awesome herping photos clanking around in there that he needs to post.
Yeah, I should probably be better. But
You
Facebook's
also have-
probably the best.
You also have internet access like 2 days a week, so it's
Technically,
My life would be so much easier if that was the case.
Yeah.
You have clutches cooking. I know you got
I
some of those
do.
9 miles.
Yeah, so I've got 9 miles. I've got 3 clutches of 277. I've got a wild caught to a F1 Mooskies that I'm pumped about. Het Melanistic Leonis, like 16 eggs out in 1 clutch.
Wow.
Some Mex, some Desert Kings.
Some killer Desert Kings, by the
Yeah.
way. Some fucking
F1.
awesome Desert King. Yeah, F1 Desert Kings.
Christmas Mountain. I caught the parents, both of them.
Yeah, those Christmas Mountain Desert Kings are sharp.
Yeah. So I think that's about it. Next year's gonna be a whole lot better.
We're all
first
saying
time
that.
breeders.
Yeah.
I've got some
Well,
super cool stuff coming up, but
So
That's
message
it for
Austin, bug him about what he's pairing next year, bug him about what out on this year. So hopefully we can get on the list for next year. Austin does keep lists, so yeah, let him know. Harry, thank you so much.
Thank y'all. I've had a blast as always.
Again, thank everybody for listening. This has been a longer episode, but I'm glad it was because I'll talk to you guys again in the future. I think Justin's gonna shut us off at some point if he has internet. If not, we're just gonna keep talking. And I don't know how that works.
Going for 4 hours. Let's just
yeah.
ride this puppy out.
Let me. I'll text him to end it.